What's up, everyone? It's your boy Dak, and today I'm with the Chestnut Tanuki, and today we're going to be breaking down One Piece chapter 1126 because there are a lot of moving parts from this chapter, and I think that's because we're kind of in between arcs right now, and that's usually when Oda sets up his chessboard. If you go between most of the arcs, this is kind of what happens, just a lot of random stuff, and I think the main things that a lot of us want to hear about today are what is going on with Blackbeard now and what's the next step of his plan, and also what is going on with the crew, like how did they get split up, and why is Nami waking up in Legoland all by herself, right? But before we do get into that, because I have a lot of good theories on what might be going on, I just want to ask you, Chestnut, how you doing?
I am actually doing really good today. I mean, obviously we got a new One Piece chapter, so it's always a good week when we get new One Piece. But it's been a pretty interesting one, so I'm excited to kind of hear some of your theories because I feel like this was like a really cool theory craft chapter. Like there was a lot of answers we got for certain things, and then also there was, some new crazy things that we're kind of just like jumping into. So I'm excited.
For those who don't know, Chestnut and I are full supporters of the Blackbeard agenda. And so I think, what we saw with Blackbeard, that's going to lead to somewhere really, really important. Like Oda is showing, he's now merging Blackbeard and the Celestial Dragons in some way, right? He's starting to kind of trickle that in. So we are going to get to that soon. But I want to start with Nami because also, everyone, Nami is also one of Chestnut's favorite characters and mine. That is my waifu for sure. So there you go. There's the proof is in the pudding right there. Well, I guess I should. Pudding was also in this chapter, so maybe that's not a good example. But
I have two of them right next to me. I love them.
Yeah, and so that's actually why I brought Chestnut on this week, because it's a Blackbeard and Nami chapter. So I was like, well, I got to get Chestnut on here then. So because I also love Blackbeard. Nami is definitely best girl. So no problem there.
So true.
Yeah, 100%.
Spitting.
And so now let's get into what's going on with Nami, because this seems to clearly be Oda's entrance into Elbaf in some way. Now, I'm not saying for sure that they're on Elbaf, although I do have an idea of how that might be. But this is clearly how Oda's trying to start the arc, is, we're getting separated, which Oda does like every arc at this point, I feel like. Like, you think back to Wano, we all, like, we were already split up because half the crew was already there, half the crew was coming. And then they got caught in a whirlpool and split up again. Remember, like, Luffy got separated and went and met Tama. So Oda loves doing this. And I think that's probably roughly what's going on. So the first idea I want to bring up, and maybe is the most simple idea, I think, is that, they drank that absinthe, right? And they all got really, really drunk. And I'm wondering if just, a storm came through, a whirlpool, what have you, pulled the Sunny away, because the Sunny is the smaller ship, so maybe the giant ship wouldn't get sucked down to the whirlpool as quickly or whatever. And then the reason why Nami is all by herself and in a change of clothes is maybe because they got pulled into the whirlpool, washed up on shore, somebody found him, and now they're like taking care of him, and we're just seeing that Elbaf has Lego buildings. And the reason why I like that is, for one thing, it's kind of simple. It's like pretty straightforward. It fits in what Oda's already done. But the big thing for me in all of the theories about what's going on with Nami is her clothes were changed. And look, I know Oda pushes the line a lot with this kind of, creepy stuff sometimes, but I'm gonna err on the side of caution and say that there's a legit reason why her clothes were changed, such as a doctor found her on the beach and her clothes were soaking wet and she didn't want her to get sick and changed her clothes for her because it's a doctor, right? Something like that. So I guess what are your thoughts on that? Is that what you think? Is that where you think this is going? Like, do you think the Lego land, the Lego castle, is on Elbaf, or just what do you think?
So I think that you're kind of spitting with the fact that it was probably just a giant whirlpool that separated them. This isn't my original theory, but the man marked by flames has been kind of shown to make these whirlpools could be something related to him, especially because we know from Kid that he's somewhere on Elbaf. So especially if they were going by Elbaf and they ended up getting separated, and like you said, Oda's in his bag when he separates the Strawhats. He separates the Strawhats more than he fake out deaths, right? So it's something that always happens. So I'm assuming that the simplest choice is probably going to be what happens. So whether it be the man marked by flames or just a storm, I'm assuming it's more so the man marked by flames created the whirlpool, separated them. From what we've seen of Elbaf so far, most of them just seem like normal buildings, right? Like from what we saw with like the Big Mom flashback, and then like the even with Shanks, I think that castle is on Elbaf, but I think it's like a toy castle that somebody placed them inside of, probably because they're they're so tiny. Is what I'm assuming.
Yeah, and it's a good point to bring up, the houses we've already seen, because they're like wooden shacks. I feel bad saying they're like not that bad, but they're like like Viking style houses, I guess. You know what I mean? They're just made of wood. Like, at least that's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And so I think what that leads to is that maybe the main castle of Elbaf is made with Legos, and it's because, well, I guess I should say, for anyone who doesn't know, why Legos are important in this regard is, for one thing, in chapter, I think it was 622, the cover page had, like, the Straw Hats building with Legos. It was like a color page that Oda drew. But also, Oda is a fan of Legos. He had Legos on his desk, and one of, like, the pictures of, like, his workspace, it's, like, right next to where he draws the manga. There's, like, a whole stack of Legos. And also... Lego is based in Denmark, I believe, which, is like Scandinavia, which ties back to the Viking lore, right? So it kind of makes sense that there would be Legos somewhere in Elbaf. And I don't know if Oda's going to go this deep, but what I hope happens, if that's true, is that they're building with Legos because they're at war all the time and stuff gets destroyed, and it's way easier to rebuild if it's Legos as opposed to, like, building a fresh house, right? So yeah, and the one thing I would say is, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, and I've heard a lot of people say this, is like, oh, maybe it's a toy, maybe like Loki is childish, maybe, there's some kind of play there. And I said this in your stream yesterday, but look, Legos are not just for kids. All right, we need to get that straight. We need to get that straight. And also, Loki is a grown-ass man. Because Loki is 63 years old, and giants tend to be, like, roughly 3 times as old as humans, or they live 3 times longer, roughly. They get to, like, 300 years old or whatever. And so if you divide it by 3, he's still 21. And so, like, this is a guy who was about to get married. So he's, like, a grown-ass man. And so that's another thing where... But that doesn't dispel that he likes Legos, because they're for adults, too. So
that is true. Well, there is a possibility that I don't think I've actually heard anybody bring up. And I think that it would work really well into your theory of, like, even, like, to why Loki is king, right? If the buildings are constantly getting destroyed and it's easier to build with Legos, what if this is just, like, a Lego devil fruit? And this person can basically make any building material Legos. And that person is Loki. And that's one of the reasons why Loki is leading right now, because as buildings get destroyed, you know what I mean? He can kind of just easily build them by making these buildings out of Legos. I think that'd be actually really fun.
Yeah, and I like that because my running idea for Loki, which a lot of people have said this too, so it's not just me, but I think Loki is going to be like a peaceful giant where he's not going to want to be at war all the time. And I think that could play into this whole Lego thing, because he could be like, all right, you guys keep building these, like, permanent housing structures, and destroying them, and it's a lot of work. Like, I'm just gonna build it out of Legos because I know you guys are gonna destroy it, and I'd rather be able to build it in like one day, or like put it back together or whatever, so it's not a huge pain to clean up. Like, I can it's not wasteful, I guess, is the way I would think of it. Like, he's trying to be peaceful about it.
And I like that. So actually, when I used to make One Piece theories, I actually have like a full video where I kind of go on the same track, where I think like Loki, and I think you're spitting. Loki is the more peaceful giant, and Thor is, I want war, I like fighting. He's more like all the other giants, and it's probably one of the reasons why they end up butting heads so much. So I think you're spitting. I think that Oda is going to do this more subversion, where it's like Loki is not childish, but he's more playful, like the actual like Nordic inspiration, where it's like we have this really playful person. He's he's a little bit of a trickster. He likes playing pranks, but all in all, he's kind of harmless. Where it's like Thor is this bloodthirsty, he loves fighting, and that's kind of more like how in the mythos, like Thor is a savage, right? Like he just likes killing things. So it's it'd be really interesting if they kind of subvert that and kind of have Loki as more of the good guy and Thor is more of the evil one. Yeah,
because Loki is like also like he is like a trickster. He's like kind of playful, but he's like kind of evil. Like in Norse mythology, he's like evil in the way that he's playful. But I think that's what Oda's gonna flip on its head. Is he's like a good Loki, where he fits in that he's maybe playing pranks on people sometimes. Maybe he's just joking around, right? He just wants to laugh and have a good time. And where I think that would hit really hard is like whenever Usopp comes and he's like, oh, I get to meet the Prince of the Giants, okay. And then Loki is like, I don't like fighting. Like, I think all that stuff's so dumb. And then Usopp's like, no, that's why you guys are great. That's why you guys are the bravest warriors. And Loki's like, no. Like that's not it. Like, and so they will be like conflicting in that way, where Usopp's like a normal sized person who acts like a giant. Loki is going to be a giant who acts like a normal person. And it would just hit really hard, where Usopp's kind of learning like, maybe I didn't really understand the giants the right way, or you know what I mean, or maybe this is going to help me understand what a brave warrior of the sea is by seeing the contrast, right?
Yeah, like it kind of like, because he thinks being a brave warrior is like fighting and always going into fights because he sees like Luffy and Zoro and he's like, oh, I want to be more like them. But maybe he can be this brave warrior in other ways. And especially because like I think you're kind of hitting on that Loki and Usopp relationship, because when you think about it, Usopp's entire thing is he kind of does the same thing. He plays pranks, he tells lies. He is kind of this Loki like figure like in the Straw Hats. You're spitting, Dak. That's awesome.
100. That's exactly what I want, is where Usopp kind of ends up being what the real Loki, or like the one from mythology is like, where he's like a little bit evil, like, because he's lying and knowing he's lying, right? Like he's doing it to, get attention or get a rise out of people, or to, make himself seem impressive and all this kind of stuff. And so that's what I hope Oda's doing. But I guess to build off of that, so that the whirlpool, the Elbaf is Legoland thing, that was the first idea, and I do like that. I think the connection between Lego and Scandinavia is like so strong, like I could see it. But I do want to get to a couple other options. So I have two other main options, but because you brought up like a Lego fruit, I want to go ahead and give an honorable mention idea. Wapol is a toy maker, and Drum Island started with Nami being sick and like passing out and waking up in Kureha's castle or whatever. And so this one, Nami is hungover and wakes up in another castle. So there's a little bit of Drum Island connection there, just like a little bit. And we also know that Wapol is with Vivi. A lot of people expect Vivi to come back with the Straw Hats. In fact, the giant ship has all crew members that haven't met Vivi, unless you count Robin, who met her as an enemy, right? And so I'm like, okay, is this setting up where all these parties are connecting in some way? And so the reason I bring up Wapol is he was a toy maker, and we also know that Wapol metal is really, really strong. And so what if this castle we see is actually a castle made by Wapol's Wapol metal, because he was able to make Legos out of, whatever he was eating. So the Legos are also really, really tough. So it's like actually a very structurally sound building in that sense. are
you thinking like more of like a devil fruit awakening for Wapol, where it's like he eats it and he can eat it and then spit them out as Legos, or like just that he can he just like has this material and he forms them into it?
I think, well, I'm not sure. Whenever he eats stuff, does he like regurgitate it as Wapol metal, or does he poop it out as Wapol metal? Do you know how that works?
Nah, I'll be honest. I don't think I've ever seen this man poop on screen. I don't think I've seen Oda ever draw anybody poop on screen.
Yeah, well,
but I would assume that it would be in his stomach and throw it back up. That's what I would assume.
Well, if that's what it is, then I think he's eating stuff and then throwing up Legos.
That would be very funny. Could you imagine if like his devil fruit awakening, because like he was throwing up like this indestructible material, what if he could just throw up into like different like shapes and like have them as like basically fully fledged things? So he's like, oh, I can make this indestructible material, because like when he eats stuff, he like gains it in his body as well. So it's like sorry, I just like had my brother grab me a Pepsi. Hey, I'm not surprised. You didn't even have to tell me what the drink was, and I would have known that it was a Pepsi. God. But yeah, I think it would definitely be interesting if Wapol was on there and there was some sort of connection with it, like Wapol. What is it? It's Wapol metal, right? Maybe he makes it into like Wapol steel. You know what I mean? And it's like even stronger, and now he can create it into like different shapes, right? Right. So he could like regurgitate like a shield or like a sword, but like now he's like, oh, I can regurgitate Legos.
Yep. Because I'm trying to look at the I'm trying to see if we have like an exact example of how this works, because to my understanding, what he does now is he eats whatever and then he throws up or poops or whatever, just toys. Like he's able to make it, like he can make whatever he like. It's like he's able to make whatever he wants out of Wapol metal by just like, because that's just how it works, I guess.
Yeah, because he like I know like he like in Drum Island he was like able to eat stuff, and he like eats it and then he can like he was like eating people and then like gaining their powers and stuff. So I wonder if it's like he can like mash it like with his hands, and like he has like full control of that. I'm not too sure how his devil fruit really works in that regard. I don't really think we got a lot of information.
Well, remember Frankie's like the Frankie Shogun is made out of Wapol metal, so he can clearly shape it into or at least somebody can shape it after it's made. So, so I guess, yeah, so he might be able to just eat stuff and just literally shit bricks, and they're just Lego bricks.
That's actually insane. That's actually insane.
Like, that would actually be hilarious. Now, the problem there, though, like I said with Nami, and this is actually what led to all my ideas, like what I feel comfortable with for this situation, because the whole Nami changing clothes thing to me, I'm like, okay, it has to be either a doctor was helping her, or it's an ability. I swear to God, if somebody just kidnapped Nami and changed her clothes for her while she was knocked out drunk, I'm never forgiving Oda ever in the history of One Piece. That would be messed up.
Unless it was Vivi who changed her clothes.
Yeah, a close friend could also work in that.
Yeah.
You know, but generally speaking, I'm like that's where my head is. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna operate off the fact that Oda's not a super creep, and I'm gonna make my other theories revolving around that.
Well,
so
you know,
he is, but I'm like, this is a line that Oda might not even cross, because like I know with the Bonnie stuff, right? I know, okay, Oda pushes the line constantly, but this, maybe I'm just too protective of Nami, but I'm like, look, if that's just not cool.
Sanji, bro. If it was Sanji,
yeah, I mean. Yeah, that would be unforgivable. No, Sanji is in the doghouse permanently. So building off of that, I'm going to give my second option. And I know this is going to sound super surprising to people. But what about Miss Golden Week? So, Miss Golden Week in the Baroque Works cover story was able to put a circular rainbow in the sky and over a wide range change everyone's clothes. Basically like Kinemon's ability, but wide-ranging. And so the reason I bring her up, not just because of that, is, so she was in Baroque Works, and we know that the Cross Guild formed, and some of the Baroque Works members are in the Cross Guild. Would it be possible that Crocodile maybe, called the rest of the Baroque Works members up, got them to work for him again, and that would make a lot of sense, because remember, Miss Golden Week and Mr. 3 and several other Baroque Works members were at Little Garden. Right, that was where we met her. So so I've been saying that Mr. 3 needs to come back in Elbaf for a long time, just to like wreak some havoc on the Giants again, or for the Giants to get revenge. That's okay too. But Miss Golden Week being there, that was like Mr. 3's partner, right? And so I'm wondering if maybe this is Oda's start of showing us that the Cross Guild will be involved in Elbaf, which is something I've always thought of. We're kind of in the Yonko Wars right now, and it's also been 2 days, right? They were sailing for 2 days, and so last time we saw the Cross Guild, they were still at Empty Bluffs or whatever, like the Seraphim were coming, and we don't know what was happening. Well, it's been 2 days, they probably left by now. Did they kidnap half the crew because they saw the sun? You were like, oh, well, let's take that, because if we can kidnap them, we can get their road poneglyph rubbings and blah, blah, blah. And so is that why they're there? And then as for Nami's clothes, it might be like, well, why would they change her into Elbaf clothes? Well, maybe it's not that they just did it to her, but maybe Miss Golden Week turned everyone on their ship or whatever this Lego thing is, turned everyone into, or to having Elbaf style clothing because they're going to Elbaf. So now all of Cross Guild's wearing Viking clothing, all of the other Straw Hats are probably wearing it. We're just seeing Nami first to kind of hype it up. So yeah, so I don't know. What are your thoughts on that one? Is that too crazy?
I love that. I actually love that, because you're right? Like, when we're thinking about Baroque Works and the relationship to Cross Guild, I would assume that most Baroque Work agents, except for obviously Bon Clay, are probably coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense because like Bon Clay was like technically both the male and female like partners, so he was kind of like the odd one out always. So like everybody else though definitely coming back. I think that would be amazing. Miss Golden Week was so underutilized in Little Garden as well, where it's like we have this really cool character who doesn't have a devil fruit, right? Is able to change the emotions of people. Is this some sort of hockey or maybe even a special like offshooting of the 6 powers that we don't know about? And we know that Elbaf is going to be like this explanation of how hockey is and how strong Shanks really is, and kind of like basically funneling all of the Straw Hats into this training arc, which I think a lot of people would agree with. Imagine Miss Golden Week and Nami, like even if they're not enemies, what if they're just in a similar situation and the Giants are going after them? Just imagine that pairing and how much like they could grow together. I would love if certain Baroque agents would not, even if they're not enemies, just even like being with the Straw Hats and interacting with them. I think it would be so interesting.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that Cross Guild is absolutely going to be coming to Elbaf in some capacity. I think that probably the people who would go there the most from Straw Hats, or the person who would probably show up the most to fight the Straw Hats on Elbaf would be Crocodile. And it'd be really cool to see kind of this subversion where it's like Vivi is technically trying to find the Straw Hats, Crocodile is coming in, who's coming back? It's Golden Week, the Kilo lady who sucked, and Mr. Five.
Miss Valentine was the Kilo lady. I'm trying to remember. Mr. Five, who's also named Gem or Gem.
Miss
I don't
Merry,
think.
Miss Merry Christmas. Oh, bring him back.
Mole fruit. Look, hey, Croc was looking for Pluton the mole the whole time, and he's gonna find a different mole. Miss Merry Christmas is coming back.
I think that is one of the best theories, because not only would it be like, because like you're right, it's like this little garden mirror almost, right?
Yep.
Where it's like, it would make so much sense if Elbaf has Vivi coming in, because I think Vivi is also coming back to Elbaf.
100%.
Crocodile, all of the Baroque Works agents, and then we see the Straw Hats, and whether they're enemies or not, because I'm still kind of like, I'm still on the edge of that, where it's like, or on the fence, I should say, where it's like, they could be enemies, but I also think that there might be a way that they're more allies, because I think that some of the God Knights are coming to Elbaf too.
I agree.
And I think that could be the thing where it's like, technically the Cross Guild and the Straw Hats could make a sort of alliance for right now. And I think it'd be pretty interesting to see like Crocodile, because I mean Crocodile has helped out Luffy before. Maybe he's just kind of like, oh, like this kid is kind of like the real deal. You know what I mean? Would be really interesting to see that.
Yeah, and about the Cross Guild coming to Elbaf, my thought has always been that this is where we're going to get a Davy back fight between the two, because then it can end with Mihawk versus Zoro. We can finally get that this arc, which it might be like a little early for some people, but I'm just like, kind of what I said earlier, we're in the Yonko Wars right now, right? Like, we've already seen, like, right when Wano ended, we saw Kid and Law both lose, because it's Oda telling us, like, I'm narrowing down the battlefield. Not saying that Law and Kid are done out of the story forever. It's just Oda's like, I gotta start narrowing down the options here, right? And that's why even the last few chapters, there's a lot of hype about, like, who's gonna get the One Piece. It's a race for it. Whoever gets it gets to change the world, whatever. And so for the Cross Guild, they need road poneglyph rubbings, right? Like that should be the only thing on all of their minds. Because even Buggy's like, we don't have to beat them. We just need to beat them there, right? Like, we don't have to actually fight them. Like, we don't have to be stronger. We just have to be faster to the place that we're going to. And so the key to that is getting the poneglyph rubbings. They could go to Luffy, have a Davy back fight. Whoever wins gets all of Luffy's poneglyph rubbings. Luffy could probably be duped into that battle because he's just always signing up for stuff he shouldn't sign up for. So yeah, I think Cross Guild being there makes a ton of sense. And the thing about Miss Golden Week that's really interesting is that Miss Golden Week, Mr. Five, Miss Valentine, Mr. Four, and Miss Merry Christmas, and Miss Doublefinger, those 6 have been separated, right? They had their own cover story series, basically, because once Croc and Mr. One got, like basically they had a moment to escape, and Croc and Mr. One were like, oh, we'll just get captured, we don't care. And the rest of them ran away. That's basically what happened in the cover story. And so those 6 went and opened up something called New Spider's Cafe. Now, Spider's Cafe was a bar in Alabasta. And so New Spider's Cafe, we do not have the location for, but we did see them in chapter 11-15 in a desert area, which makes it feel like, okay, maybe they're still in Alabasta. Or that could be somewhat of maybe like throwing us off a little bit. Because remember, Shanks was also at a wedding in a desert area, and we don't know where that was. Well, what if that's like in the New World? What if that's where New Spider's Cafe is? Oda's just making there be a Spider's Cafe in all the deserts or something, right? Would be like the idea, I suppose. Because like, why would you have 2 Spider Cafes in the same place, right? Like they should go make another one. So I'm thinking that maybe what Oda is doing is like, getting just sort of like trickling the information a little bit. Like in 11-15, we also saw Miss Golden Week with an apple on her head, like a Vegapunk apple, which I'm like, that's like a little too specific for Miss Golden Week. Like it looks just like Vegapunk's like top half of an apple on his head. And so I think it's maybe like a sign, like I'm merging her with the Vegapunk stuff. Like it's like as soon as we're done with Vegapunk, she's coming in. Is like the vibe I got. That. Yeah.
I think you're spot on. I think that theory is going to age beautifully.
I'm glad.
Yeah, you put it perfectly. I love that.
All right, I'm glad because in the Discord people were very skeptical. I mean, and I get why people are
Non-believers.
skeptical, but Miss Golden Week being able to change people's clothes, that's crazy, you know.
I mean, even if she doesn't, I think just the fact that Miss Golden Week is coming to Elbaf, like, and the Baroque Works agent, because you're right, this is a mirror of Little Garden. And regardless of how bummed that arc actually is, I don't know if that's a hot take. I did not like Little Garden at all. That arc was kind of booty cheeks.
Mr. Prince was like the coolest thing, you know.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, Sanji was the coolest thing in that arc. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I don't hate Sanji. I'm just joking.
The biggest problem for me, honestly, is that Mr. 3 beat the Giants. I know he had like a plan. He kind of cheated. I get all of that. But and ever since then I've had somewhat of an agenda of like the Giants suck because, you know, when we see Mother Carmel, we see multiple of them about to get executed. Mother Carmel had to save them with some like prophetic nonsense. And then like Oimo and Kashi got duped and were just at Eni's lobby forever. Harudin got one-shotted by Luffy. It's like they just look bad all the time. Like everywhere you look, they're scrubs. So, but with that being said, I'm pumped for Elbaf. You know, this is gonna be their time to shine. And also earlier you mentioned the idea that like Miss Golden Week, you know, we don't know about how her powers work, and you mentioned maybe like Nami or somebody can maybe learn from her or something because her powers are kind of like hypnosis, which I think could also explain how she was able to take the ship without anyone noticing. Like, imagine Miss Golden Week goes on, everyone's passed out drunk, she paints on all of them, like, sleep or something, so they all just stay sleeping. Maybe she even paints on the ship, like, turn around, and then so, like, it, you know, like, there's, like, she could break the whole game as far as getting the kidnapping the crew. And so the thing I was thinking, though, is Usopp could actually learn from Miss Golden Week. Because, you know, this is obviously Usopp's arc. He's got to get an upgrade, but he is also like really good at art already, right? And so a lot of people have talked about him getting Conjuro's fruit somehow, which I would love, but it seems like that ship may be assailed. But him getting Miss Golden Week's painting stuff, I mean, that sounds like an Usopp thing. Like, remember, Usopp was the guy who was so negative that Perona couldn't affect him with her hollows. Like, he kind of has the mastery of emotions because he's just always negative. Like, you can't change it. And so him being the guy who can change other people's emotions with paint, I don't know. I would like that. Maybe he can make himself brave then by painting on himself.
All right. Hold up. Now, let's think about this. This might be a little crazy. So, we obviously know that Usopp has observation haki, right? Even in the Weaver cards, they say he has observation. Everybody knows he's going to have some crazy, like, future sight type deal. What if Miss Golden Week's powers are actually a subsection of observation haki? And I like to think of haki, every time I think about it, I think of it like a skill tree, where you have, like, the 3 basic ones, and then there's skills that branch off of it, and only certain people can get, some skills. Like, if you... Or it's kind of like if you're like, if you're a swordsman in D&D, you can get like certain skills as like a fighter and stuff. Or if you're like a rogue, you can have like the trickster path where you can like get arcane magic and stuff, or, you know, stuff like that. Where it's like, what if you're right, where it's like Usopp has such control of his emotions with his observation haki. And I think it leads into another one of your theories that I watched a while ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where it's like Usopp can basically like lie into the future. And change it, where it's like it could be like this subsection of Miss Golden Week's power. Because I know with your Van Augur and Usopp video linked up above, Dak, make sure you link that.
It'll be in the description for sure. Putting it above requires me to scrub through the video and find this moment, and that's way too much work. But in the description, absolutely.
Which is like one of my favorite videos that you did, where it's like Usopp will be able to see in like different dimensions, and like kind of like based off of like what he did in Film Red, right? And that's how he's gonna eventually like beat Van Augur. Like he'll be able to kind of see him like traveling and stuff. Yeah. It'd be really cool if it was kind of like also like Usopp would be able to like kind of change the emotional like spectrum of somebody with his observation haki with like art, or like even like when he hits somebody with his art, like it's kind of this mixture of observation haki and emotions. Could be interesting.
Well, he could also put paint in, like literally shoot paintballs. Oh my god, how cool would that be? Like a paintball gun. Yo, that's like almost video worthy, because that is such.
Can you make, please?
because he already has the slingshot. Like he almost has paintballs. That's what they look like, or paintballs. But tying to what you're saying, I think it's kind of interesting because, we've seen recently that if you have enough hockey or you like exude enough of it or whatever, you can stop other people's devil fruit powers from working on you. And then so you go back to the Perona moment, like that wasn't hockey, but Usopp was able to not be affected by a devil fruit power. It's like his emotions kind of filled that void for him to evade devil fruit powers. And so I wonder if there is going to be a thing here where Usopp, like whether it's observation hockey or even conquerors, to be honest, or something like that, I'm not sure, but I definitely get what you're saying by it's kind of like a subset or like a different way of looking at hockey, because there's also things like life return, which aren't hockey, but if you can control your body in the right way, you can get stronger, and it's hockey-esque in that way, right? Or the six powers. The 6
powers off branching almost, where there might be like this sort of mixing of the 6 powers and hockey, but you got to make this paintball theory, bro.
Yeah, that is actually a crazy idea that I might even I'm gonna see what happens this week. I'm gonna see what happens because we're gonna have a break after 11/27, and then we'll see, because that is actually I really want to talk about Usopp, and that would be, I can already see I don't know if I can make the thumbnail just Usopp with a paintball gun or equivalent, but there's a lot of cool thumbnails I could make from that. So. Usopp
with like the Mihawk sword and the bucket of paint.
Oh my god, it would be so funny to have painting with Miss Golden Week be focused on if Mihawk shows up. Because we already saw Luffy paint the bat, remember, in Egghead. I think Oda knows about the painting memes. I'm pretty sure he's aware, and I think he thinks it's hilarious.
But think about it. Isn't it weird that like painting, like even if Oda's just doing it for a meme, right? Isn't it weird that painting seems to come up as like you can basically paint yourself to be stronger? Yeah, I honestly think Usopp may paint himself to be more brave.
Yeah,
I think that may actually be a thing.
Yeah, imagine he paints like I don't know what the symbols are for Miss Golden Week. I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to him, but I can imagine him putting what if like the symbol for bravery, like, again, I don't know if you just have to put a strike of paint or if you have to put like a symbol. I can't remember. But imagine if like the symbol of bravery or whatever is like he paints like the goofy Usopp face that he sent at Sugar. Imagine he paints that like on himself, and that's what makes him brave, is like it's like him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that'd be so sweet.
Like yeah, that would actually be kind of touching, because it's like he is the symbol of bravery to himself in that way, right? So it's like he is a brave warrior of the sea, all in and of himself, all like it's just him, but it's because it's kind of like the Soge King thing, right? Because he got really brave and like pretended to be this awesome hero whenever he was Soge King. As soon as he didn't have the mask on, he was back to, like weak little Usopp. And so it could be a similar thing where maybe like he can be himself. He doesn't have to put on the mask, but he can paint something on his back to like kind of hype himself up. Like, I actually love that.
It's kind of like, it's like, like when in like a video game you have like power-ups, right? It's like Usopp can basically give himself power-ups,
a buff,
but then also he can give other people like power boons, right? Where it's like he's Banes.
Or
Banes.
Nerfs.
Nerfs. That's a much better way to put it. Oh my god.
Well, I thought you were going for the alliteration there,
I was trying to, but I failed spectacularly. So that's unfortunate. But I think honestly that could work really well into your Van Augur video.
Yeah. So and like, Usopp beats Van Augur with paintballs like that.
With paintballs, not even paint. Like, he's able to like use his observation hockey to like hit Van Augur, right? And he basically turns Van Augur from this cool, collected guy into like this, oh my gosh, he's freaking out, right? And like he's just like, you're pretty scared of me. I have this army, and like as he's like Van Augur #1 is like your dimensional theory, which I love. I love that one. But it's like he's like he gets hit, and then he's like believes all of Usopp's lies. Yeah. And like it's like this mind game, and it's like Usopp just beats him on 2 fronts.
And I love that you brought up how Van Augur's like very calm, cool, and collected. Like, he's always bringing up fate because he's always thinking about like the next step. He's always thinking about the future. I will bet my freaking house that this man has future sight whenever he fights Usopp. And we learned from Katakuri that the way you keep your observation hockey up is not getting flustered, right? Like maintaining your emotions. And so for Usopp to finally start, like, he's like, well, if the only way I can beat him is by getting him off his game a little bit, and then he makes him, hits him with like a sad bullet hits him like with different emotions, you know, and the guy gets maybe Augur even just gets like a little bit of paint on him and it only affects him like a little bit, but it's like enough to start changing the game, and Augur's like, okay, what the hell is happening? Like I didn't know this guy had a fruit power, and he's like, well, I don't, you know,
and that would be in the mind games. Yeah. You know, it could also work like, especially when you're saying like the common like in the emotions and stuff, because I think that's the big thing with Usopp. You had another theory, link in bio, where you were talking about like a Rouge coming to Elbaf and Enel. And it would be very interesting because like Usopp, you know what I mean? Like every time he faces a strong opponent, he obviously gets really nervous. But when he's calm and collected, he's almost unstoppable. Like he can literally hit anything. And I think that's like the best thing about Usopp, because once he learns how to control his emotions, he'll be able to kind of like get to that next step. It would be really cool if he learns the stuff from his Golden Week, and then from like a Rouge, you know what I mean? And he's like, oh, this is how you can kind of be calm and collected. Or even if he has to face off against like Enel, which I don't think will happen, but I think it'd be pretty cool just to theorize. Like he's like calmer, collected when Enel comes, and he's just like kind of like, he's like, I'm here, I'm ready. It
would be so cool for Usopp, the guy who just can't really maintain his emotions that well most of the time, to force it, you know, by painting himself to have certain like that. I hope that happens. That's so just cool. That's that I love that idea. Like I almost want to stop talking about it because I'm like I might have to do a video on it.
Yeah, I think you're gonna need to do a video on it.
Then I'm just wondering, how can I rope this into Usopp becoming Brave Warrior of the Sea? Because I've always been a big supporter of Hidden Islands idea on this, which, you know, I don't know if other people throughout the ether of One Piece history came up with the same idea, but he was the first one I heard it from, where basically, long story short, Usopp will do something where he gets a book written about him, where he's the Brave Warrior of the Sea, flipping the Nolan the liar thing on its head, because Nolan was a good guy who is now believed to be a liar because a book was written about it, and so everyone just believes it. For Usopp, who's based off Aesop's fables, which is why I said that, for Usopp, then maybe he gets a book written about him because of his heroics in Elbaf, even if it's not truly heroics, it's just whatever. And because he's painted as a hero in that book, and the whole world reads that book later on, they all think that he is a brave warrior of the sea, so he is believed to be that, and he is one, even though maybe whatever he did was sort of, you know, funny or lucky or whatever, right?
Right, Dak, hold up. Think about this. So Usopp has his battle in Elbaf, right? And then when he gets his paintball power, and as he does it, there's this huge mural that's painted that shows Usopp being this crazy hero. And because of that, the people of Elbaf write a fable about him, because Elbaf backwards is fable, right? They write a fable, and that goes crazy. And it's because Usopp himself painted himself and made himself the brave warrior of the sea.
Like I said, like if he can change the funny sugar Usopp face into like a brave symbol, like so it's like him, but it's like not him at the same. You know what I mean? It like it looks like him, but it's, you know, it's like a funny version of it. Like imagine, like if that. Like I said, if that becomes like the symbol of bravery to him, like maybe he paints it on himself, maybe that's like what Elbaf get, like maybe that symbol gets painted, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they remember that.
It's like he shoots it, like there's like this big rock, right? And it's like as he's fighting somebody, like he kind of stands up in front after defeating them, and the mural behind, he like creates a mural behind him because of like the art stuff, and it shows him like depicted as this brave warrior. Yeah. And people see this and are like, oh my gosh, that's Usopp, the brave warrior of the sea.
That would be awesome, actually.
Where he like just like as he's fighting, like ends up painting like this entire thing, like with like Future Sight. Oh, that'd be so cool.
And maybe it'll be done in a way where it makes him look like a giant, and like he's just like this awesome hero, and so all of the other Elbaf giants see this giant mural and like, oh my god, that's our god of Elbaf. Like, you know, that's the number one brave warrior. Everyone needs to hear about this man. Like, we're gonna leave this mural here because, you know, this is our hero. And like it's literally like it's just Usopp freaking shooting paintballs and like, you know, freaking out the whole time. I actually love that so much. That would be so cool.
I love this.
Well, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change subjects because that might have to be a video on the main channel at this point. But yeah, I do want to go back to Nami because I do have one more option that I really, really like for what may have happened to her, and I think it could be the beige flying ship thing from the time skip. Remember how beige got sucked up by a thing floating in the sky, and we never knew what happened with that?
Shiki.
Yeah, well, yeah. So Shiki's what I think. That's what a lot of people have said, and people think Shiki might be the guy waiting on the shore at Elbaf. He might just come into the arc anyway because we're waiting for him. This is going to be a sky-related arc with all the, but probably the Atom Tree tying to the summit of High West and all that stuff. It seems like there's some sky stuff coming on in this arc. Uranus also is probably going to get revealed in this arc. So there's a lot of sky stuff. So for that beige flying ship thing, the reason that I think that could be really strong is that tying it to beige. Remember, Beige is married to Chiffon. Chiffon's twin sister is Lola. Lola turned down Loki at their wedding, and Nami and Lola are friends. So, it could be that maybe Beige, maybe he's operating that flying ship at this point, because remember, Beige also has the castle fruit, and Nami is in a Lego castle. Now, I'm not saying that's Beige's castle, I'm just kind of, there's a lot of thematic connections here, I feel like. And so maybe the thing that Beige got sucked up into was a giant Lego thing, right? So maybe that's just a giant Lego castle or whatever up there, and that's where Nami is. But I think the reason that this could all happen is that, basically, I think if Loki's going to be involved in this arc, I feel like Lola has to be involved in this arc. It's just, to me, that's just, I don't know. Like Lola, we need to figure out why Lola said no to Loki, right? We don't know. And the thing is, Lola is married now to Gotti, right? She got married in the cover story. So, is it maybe a situation where, like, they saw the Sunny on the sea and just, like, sucked it up while everyone was drunk so nobody noticed, and it's just because Lola wants to talk to Nami first, like, hey, hey, I missed you, for one thing, like, hey, we haven't talked for a long time, but then also, hey, just, you should know that, like, the Prince of, like, we're going to get some insight into who the Prince of Elbaf is before we meet him, I guess is the idea. Like, Lola would be like, hey, Nami, like, you should know, I was supposed to marry the Prince of Elbaf, and I turned him down because of this reason, and he's this type of person, and I just wanted to let you know before you met him because, he's, like, a very important figure, blah, blah, blah. Like, it could just be, I want to talk to you before you talk to him type thing. Like, I'm going to be there. I hope that you can maybe help, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, something like that.
That could be interesting.
Yeah, because I just feel like, we got to figure out what Beige got sucked up into. Lola should explain what happened with Loki, especially now that she's married to somebody else, right? So this could be the way that Oda's merging all those things.
It could be. I would be very disappointed if Loki was just hideously ugly. Like, this is just he's very sweet, but just ugly, and then it's like, come on, bro.
I hope he is handsome as hell. He's hot. Yeah, I hope he's hot. Like, the other thing that I wouldn't mind is that he has a really long nose, and Lola turned him down because since he's a giant, and, like, so not only is he already really big, but now the nose is massive, they couldn't kiss. What if that, like, like physically they couldn't because, like, she would just get hit by the nose, like, and it would hurt too much, and she's like, well, you broke my skull. You know what I mean? Trying to, like, kiss me at the wedding, so screw you. Like.
Or what also could happen is that Loki didn't want to marry Lola, and it could be that Loki has somebody else that he wants to marry.
Well, in the flashback, I believe it was said that Loki did not want anyone else. Like Big Mom offered up her other children when Lola said no, and he didn't want anyone else.
Yeah, so I do remember that. My thing is, like, what if it was like a thing between them where it's like Lola wanted to escape and he was talking and he's like, I really don't want to marry anybody, right? And she's like, oh well, I'll escape before you do that. You know what I mean? Like classic love story stuff where it's like he doesn't want to marry anybody, so he chooses the person who he knows doesn't want to marry him.
Because maybe he wants to be single or something.
Or like he has somebody else that, like, you know what I mean? Like he has somebody else that he wants to marry and be with.
The thing for me is that the story beat of, like, having Lola want to marry everyone but not the Prince of the Giants, like that, I don't want Oda to cheapen that, I want Oda to get, I want her to come through with, like, a really bold reason of, like, that he's the only man in the world that I wouldn't marry, even though he wanted to marry me, because of, and like I said, the nose thing, that would be a funny thing. That's like, that's down Oda's alley, like, just something kind of dumb. But it could also be, maybe, like, it could also be something kind of endearing, like Loki I don't know, like Loki had his dreams were too big, and I felt like I was gonna hold him back, or something to that effect, right? Like I don't know.
That could be it too, where it's like Loki wants to do all these things, and like Lola was like, I can't help you with that.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting if it had something to do with dreams, and it kind of put that subversion where it's like, necessarily she didn't leave him because of a bad reason, right? She left him because like his lofty aspirations, which is kind of similar to like Luffy in a way too. So I would like that too. I hope it's not something like, oh, he's super evil, because I feel like if Loki is evil and like just like plain out evil, I don't think he's going to be as interesting in the arc if he has like a lot of depth to his character.
Yeah, I can't see that either. I do think Loki is going to be maybe somewhat antagonistic towards the other giants, because like we talked about, he's probably not going to like war, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of Elbaf giants that view Loki as like weak or stupid or whatever. But yeah, no way he's going to be actually evil, because Loki is the Momo, the Vivi, the Rebecca, the prince or princess, right, of the arc. Like we have this time and time again. We know how this works every time. The prince and princess of the arc, they start out as enemies at the very beginning, learn that we're good people and our goals are aligned, we join forces, and then we change the country for good. It happens every single time. Momo started out as a dragon saying he's going to eat Luffy, and then they became friends and escaped together, and everything. Vivi started out in Baroque Works trying to kill Laboon, ended up joining the crew, and then they worked together to go save Alabasta. Rebecca started out as a gladiator, tried assassinating Luffy in the Coliseum, and then they became friends and worked together. It happens.
Hiyori does the same thing, where Hiyori was also
Good call. Started out as like the number one Oiron or whatever, and was talking about Bingo Bongo, those guys like screwing those guys like out of their money, and like we're like, oh wow, that's like kind of iffy. But like, then we're like, oh, those people are terrible. Okay, good, yeah, good job taking their money. So yeah, you're right, Hiyori. There's other examples too. I just can't think of like every prince or princess does the same thing. Everybody.
Yeah, I think the only one that I love that technically like she was a little antagonistic, or the royal family was, where it's like in Fishman Island, where it's like they thought that she was like taking Shirahoshi like captive. See, if Shirahoshi was less of a crybaby, she may have been a little antagonistic, but she was, I mean, she said she didn't like Luffy in the beginning, but then she kind of learned to like them, but it was more like the royal family. But you're right, basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, Oda is in his bag when he makes royalty the enemy at the beginning of the arc, fake out deaths, separating the Strawhats, and fake out deaths. Did I say that already?
Yeah, you did. But you might as well say it twice, because there's so many of them, Which I mean, we're probably going to get into this towards the end of the stream, but like the Bartolomeo thing, like come on, man, like Oda, you didn't kill anybody. There's not a single dead person on that ship. It's like it's unknown if there's any survivors. No, that's bullshit. We know damn well there are 100% survival rate. Going
Bring back
on.
Pedro already. We already know he's alive. We already know Pedro is alive.
Don't even get me started. Like Chestnut, why is Pedro's grave on Wano? Why? He never went there. None of the samurai are gonna know who he is. And also, Carrot went back to Zoe. Why not just Pedro was Carrot's mentor. Why not have Carrot put a Pedro grave on Zoe? Why are we putting it on Wano next to Yasu? Yasu never met Pedro in his life. Like, and then Zoro had the audacity to go visit both of their graves, which visiting Yasu's, that's cool. Pedro's, Zoro never even met Pedro. Zoro does not know who Pedro is. You know what I mean? Like, and Zoro didn't go to Ryuma's grave. Like,
Zoro want to go to Ryuma's grave because he was like, listen, I can't do anything in Wano that's productive other than fight. Think about it.
That's it.
We got nothing into his backstory except like one word. He didn't visit Ryuma's grave. He didn't do basically anything that he said throughout the entire arc. All he did was look cool at the very end, which honestly, that's all Zoro really needs to do. But it's like,
the mink medicine. I guess there's just no side effects.
No, he's fine.
Yep, unless it's the Grim Reaper, which like tell us, please. Yeah, but we could talk for what's the maximum length of video on YouTube? 12 hours. We could go for that long about my gripes with Wano. But
oh my gosh.
But Elbaf is where Oda changes it. Egghead was all right. It tapered off a little bit towards the end.
I agree.
But I'm ready for Elbaf.
I'm excited for Elbaf. Also, you know your Wano video? That was the first video I ever saw of you. When you
really?
Were doing
My
your
Wano,
criticisms.
yeah.
When it first came out, I didn't know who you are back then. I was like, man, why does this guy not like Wano's?
Yep, I might be the #1 Wano hater, and I'll wear it with a badge of pride also. I mean, I got it like 11 on my arc list. Like, it's not that low. It's just like, bro, like when you got 10 years of build up, you got Kaido there. You even like that's the arc where Luffy awakens and all that. And the main takeaways are the awakening and stuff. It's like, I want some deeper. I don't know. No Kaido backstory. No Kaido awakening. I don't know. We could talk about this for days. Seriously, I got enough gripes. Hopefully Kaido comes back though. Well, do you have any other ideas on what might be happening with Nami right now, other than what we've talked about?
I feel like we kind of went over some of the big ones. When I in like my chapter react, when I first saw it, I was like, oh cool, like Nami is kind of like separated from everybody else. I would assume that like the other characters are in the castle with her, because I don't want this to be like Princess Peach and Mario. Your princess is in another castle, and we just have Nami kidnapped for the entire time.
Yeah.
The one thing that technically isn't my theory, and I have to say shout out to Ragnar, because he's always been saying the Shiki and Nami connections, right?
Yeah, definitely major shout out to Ragnar.
But it's like, I think that there's definitely some sort of connection with Shiki. I really hope Shiki comes at some point, but it would be very interesting if Nami was kidnapped by like Shiki.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of this crew, and this is his introduction into the story. Road to Laugh-Tale was hyping up Shiki left and right. So it's like, if Oda never uses this character that he's hyped up, and it's like, I would assume that Shiki knows Nami's backstory, because Oda has Nami's backstory like set in stone, right? He knows what it is. He knows it's important, to the point where they were gonna make a movie on it, and then they just like were like, no, actually, we got to put this in the main story.
Well, real quick, I gotta say, because I know you're a Nami fan like I am. So, I think you're cooking. We're gonna talk about Shiki in a second, but I just gotta say, you know, a lot of backstories for the Straw Hats have been coming out in SBSs and Beaver cards lately. Like, we got Zoro's family, like Frankie, like Queen being Frankie's dad, and all that kind of stuff. If Nami's backstory with Oikot and like who her family is, if that gets relegated to an SBS or a Beaver card, Oda is getting a very strongly worded letter from me, because Nami and the Oikot stuff, that has to be important. That has to be in the story in my mind. Like Zoro's mom and dad, they could be completely irrelevant and the story would be fine. You know, but Nami, I'm like, okay, not like Oda, you showed Nami being like basically an orphan baby in this war-torn country where the government was losing, apparently, because like a lot of the Marines were dying and stuff. So we know that was a government-affiliated country. We know that there was a big pirate attack of some kind. If you relegate that to an SBS and make it not important, I'm gonna be real upset, Oda. I need the Nami focus. I need it.
If that happens and he relegates her backstory to some sort of like extra material, just start calling me Sandman, bro. The way I'm gonna start going after Oda.
Yeah,
you see,
for
if
real.
Man goes after Oda on Twitter, that's how I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
That's like the one backstory that we need. We just need that one.
And it's so funny because Nami was just a baby, so it's not like we're gonna see Nami like suffering majorly, right? She was like a happy baby at the time too, right? But obviously, like, her family in that country are important, like, because we don't know who her original family is. Like, that whatever was going on at Oikot's important. It's just like, Oda, you can't do that. And so tying it back to what you said about Shiki, a theory that I've heard before. I want to say Mr. Bushido said this, but Mr. Bushido has like 10 Shiki theories, so it's hard for me to keep track. But somebody said this in the Discord, where, like, what if Shiki was responsible for the attack on Nami's home country? You know, like, what if, like, the Oikot, because, like I said, like, they had government, you know, like Marines were protecting them, which means they're government affiliated, so Shiki may have came and attacked for some kind of reason. I do like that. My only issue with that, and with Shiki being the one who took Nami here, is that's exactly what happened in Strong World, and I think Oda's got to approach it differently. Like, even because, like, Shiki being, you know, a sky-related person with the float fruit and whatever, and then her being a navigator, and, like, you know, maybe Shiki wanting Uranus, because if you go back to the Ed War, I brought this up in my last video with Hidden, where in the Ed War, Shiki's like, Roger, I know you know the location of an ancient weapon. And this was before Roger had met Odin. And so, we saw that Roger and Odin went together to Skypiea and learned about Poseidon. So we know that he did not know about Poseidon at that point in the Ed War. So it's only Pluton or Uranus, which are options. And I would say Pluton is almost ruled out also because, again, he didn't have Odin, so he couldn't read the poneglyph. So even if he went to Alabasta, he wouldn't have been able to read it. That said Pluton was in... Because Shiki said, you know the location of one. So theoretically, Roger could, learn the poneglyph from Alabasta, and that would fulfill it. But... he couldn't read the poneglyph. So the only way is if basically Cobra knew what that poneglyph said, and Cobra told Roger. That's like the only way, because Roger didn't go to Wano either. He pulled up there with Odin and let Odin walk in and go get the rubbing, but Roger himself never set foot in Wano. So it pretty much has to be Uranus. So we have a reason to believe that Shiki is looking for Uranus, which makes sense with the sky connections. And if Uranus really does control the weather, having Nami tied to that makes a lot of sense. So I get the Shiki thing. It's just like, if the arc really starts with him immediately kidnapping Nami and redoing Strongworld, I'm going to be like, all right, Oda, you got to think of something new, I
agree. And you know what? I think that it would be lazy if it's like that. Like I said, I don't want to have it to be like your princess is in another castle, and that's kind of what Nami is relegated to. I do think that the Nami backstory needs to be said on Elbaf. Personally, I think Nami is a Nerona. I think Nami Nerona is absolutely a thing. I think that Oikot is connected to Emu. I think that was originally the place where Emu was from, and I do think that Nami is a descendant. And I think it kind of makes sense that, like, because personally, I think that Emu is in Nefertari Lily's body. I think it's kind of like a Kenjaku situation where it's like, because of this whatever connection, because like Vivi was able to like make it rain technically and like kind of control the weather, so it's like there's probably certain people who have this, and I think that there's like two lions who have this like weather connection, and that would make sense why Uranus is now technically controlled by the world government, right? One of them is Vivi and one of them is Nami. There are probably two royal families that had very similar connections to the weather, so I think that would be a really interesting thing where it's like if Emu can't have Vivi, then Emu's gonna go after Nami, and like.
Well, now I do want to ask, because I know that the Emu being in Lily's body is a super common theory that people have right now, and so I'm curious because this to me personally, I think it debunks it, but I get that Oda could do this a million different ways, but Cobra was right in front of Emu, and you think Cobra would notice that it looked like Lily. You know what I mean? Because, like, I don't think Cobra is seeing a silhouette like we are. Now, I could be wrong, right? That's where to me it makes sense. But I get, I mean, who knows? Oda could make Emu a legit silhouette for all we know. But in my mind, I'm like, if Cobra was sitting right in front of Emu and Emu looks like Lily, Cobra would say something. Like, oh wow, you look just like Lily, or even Vivi, because they probably look the same. So that's one. So that makes me believe that it's not Lily's body right now. But I know that's a really common theory. So
say like, listen, I got bad eyesight. That man was like on death's door. I would say if he's that far away, I probably wouldn't have been able to recognize the face anyways. So to me, I'm like, listen, I think Cobra don't really know. He was already dying, right? He's like, you know what? I don't got long for this world. He probably had cataracts. Like he had probably some glaucoma. So. Maybe not the best thing to trust him. He could be looking at Emu and he's like, can't see. Can you turn on the lights?
Hey, just because his legs don't work anymore doesn't mean his eyes don't.
I would bet you $100 that Cobra has glaucoma. Or cataracts. One of the two. He definitely has cataracts, definitely. But like he probably had like some sort of like glaucoma. He's taking like eye drops for it. He can't see.
He's got to have observation hockey, He's got to be able to see even without eyes. Fujitora could see.
Yeah, but he can see like figures. Have you ever played like One Piece? What is that called again? The one World Seeker game where it's like when you use the observation hockey, it's basically like the Batman detective vision.
Yeah.
How it probably looks.
Yeah. By the way, though, just because I mentioned Fujitora, I got to bring it up because you brought up Oikot. I think that the tragedy Fujitora saw that made him blind himself is what happened at Oikot. That's like my
absolute W. Absolute W.
That's like my
so good.
That's my agenda. Because he's also like a good guy. He's already responded to government and pirate conflict. Like you think about Dressrosa, right? That's like I could see a similar thing. Like there's like a big travesty there. Like it was a terrible situation. It was horrific. Like if you go at least back in the past with King Riku and Doflamingo, that was just like that's like hard for me to watch still. Where like Riku gets controlled by the strings and kills everybody, right? I could see something that type of terror is what I think Fujitora saw that would make him blind himself, and so then maybe taking it over to Oikot, where maybe something similar happened to Dressrosa, I think that would make a lot of sense. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Fujitora never met Nami either, right? I don't think he met her.
I don't think so because
the majority of the arc.
Yeah, because she left with Sanji and them, right?
I wonder if that's on purpose then.
Might be. I mean, because like Nami wouldn't remember him and he wouldn't remember her. You know what I mean? Because like she was too young to even recognize him, and even if he saw her as a baby, he probably doesn't really remember. But still, like you're saying, that could just be Oda keeping him separate. Like, you know, I don't even want these people to mix yet. Like I gotta, you know, I don't want to give any plot holes for people to point at and say I forgot something. So.
Dak, I need the Nami theory. I need you to make the Nami theory.
Aren't you the one who was supposed to make a Nami theory?
Yeah, but now my channel isn't One Piece anymore, so you need to carry on my will, okay? Inherited will.
All right. Well, I mean, I've been thinking about it because I do agree with the Neroni. The Nerona, the macaroni, the rigatoni, ravioli.
Pepperoni?
Yeah, pepperoni, ravioli, Nami theory. The thing with I do think Emu it's either that Emu ruled over Oikot or Goa to me. It's one of the two. And I don't think there's even any in between. And the thing about Nami being Nerona Nami, the only issue is that we saw with Dressrosa that the Don Quixote were in control of Dressrosa, then the Void Century happened, then the King Riku family came and took over afterwards. So it was a different family than before. And so for Nami, it could be a situation where, you know, like it's the whoever took over for the Neronas is Nami's family. So Nami's like a good version of the Nerona would be like the idea there. But we also saw with the Don Quixote that Doflamingo came back and took it over again. So it could be that maybe a Nerona member did that. I think that's... real quick, just the last thing. One person that needs to be a Nerona is Sharlos. But that's it.
Sharlos as a Nerona would be awful, especially if like Nami is a Nerona. No, I would not like that, bro. Get Sharlos out of here.
But think about the Don Quixote. You have people like Doflamingo, and then you have people like Mjosgard, who ended up turning good, right? And so that could be the story there is like, wow, we're actually related, and you're a piece of shit, and I'm not. You know, it's like that could be the whole story. So
I think would be really interesting is that if like the reason that Oikot was technically destroyed and why Nami's orphaned, and because we don't really hear about it anymore, right? Like we're not. It's like, what if they found out that the original Nerona family was still ruling under a different name, right? Because they were kind of like the Goras they were already looking into. Yeah. They're like, did Vivi, oh my god, did Lily do it on purpose? Like they said, oh, it was Lily's biggest blunder, right? But Lily did it on purpose, right? Because Lily was a D member. What if the Nerona family, like, there was Nerona Emu, and then there was a brother, right? And they kind of changed their identity and took over it underneath this new name, right? Yeah. And it was like, that's why Nami doesn't have a last name, and why it's just Nami. And I mean, most people don't have last names, right? But it's like, what if these people like went and they started like, oh, we're the new ruling family, we're this and that, and then they found out like, oh, actually, this is a Nerona family, and Emu's like, kill them off. Like, you need to kill all of like every connection to that.
Yeah, it could be like one of Emu's kids or relatives. Like maybe they were celestial dragons and went down, again, mirroring the Don Quixote again. And then because they went down, they wanted to still be kings and took over their country again. That actually lines up. And that could be what Fujitora saw, is maybe like that struggle for power, maybe, you know, like some kind of like, again, like I said, like the Dressrosa situation is really sad. Like that's something that would be worth kind of blinding yourself over because it's so bad. If the same thing happened at Oikot with the Neronas coming back and trying to take it over, like Emu's cousin or something, Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I like that.
I like that theory.
All right, well let's move on now to our guy Blackbeard.
The goat.
Because obviously in the last chapter we got to see Lafitte finally, my guy. I've been waiting for him, and of course he's
so long, bro.
He's out there, sleuthing like he always is, just sneaking around, getting intel. But obviously Oda tied a lot of that Blackbeard stuff to the food shortages that the Celestial Dragons now have from the revolutionaries destroying their food stores. So you actually pretty much said the same thing I agree with in your stream about where this is going with Blackbeard and the food. So why don't you just go ahead and explain it?
So basically in my stream when I saw this panel, it seems like Blackbeard has been kind of trying to help the revolutionaries out a little bit, where it's like they're probably feeding them information, and when the revolutionaries had their siege on Marijois, I'm sure that Lafitte had played some part into that. Whether it was helping take out some guards, or even just like opening up doors. We know that this man can get basically into anywhere, and he's already gone to Marijois before, right? So we know that he's probably one of the sneakiest guys. But it makes so much sense that Blackbeard would have a vested interest in the revolutionaries hurting the Celestial Dragons, especially with their food storages, and having Lafitte kind of look at that, probably because Blackbeard wants to become a part of the world government. And what better way to not only offer up, hey, here's your guy that I captured, you can have him back, but also, I will make sure that the Celestial Dragons get their food. If you don't want us, that's fine, but then the Celestial Dragons are gonna starve. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he's created this situation that the world government basically can't say no to. And obviously Blackbeard works in threes, so it's like we have Blackbeard obviously taking over Garp, right? We have the Saturn stuff, or taking Garp prisoner, I should say. We have Lafitte and the revolutionaries stopping food from the Celestial Dragons, and then we have our boy Saturn having his lightness taken by the man, the myth, the legend, Katarina Devon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we have these three pieces already. Like I said, Blackbeard always works in threes. Three pieces that could be used so easily. It would be very interesting to see how Blackbeard uses his pawns in order to get what he wants. Because I think eventually Blackbeard's goal is to access the treasure under Marijois. I think he absolutely knows about that 100%. Especially because, like, Doflamingo was pretty brazen saying stuff like that on Dressrosa too.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows if Lafitte was listening in, to that fight and was watching from a distance. Like, who knows where this man and what information Blackbeard truly has. So, if Blackbeard wants the ability to access Marijois, what better than being the pirate crew that ensures food gets to them? Could also be something maybe with the Cross Guild too, where the Blackbeard pirates are all of a sudden going to start protecting people and high-tier marines from the Cross Guild and start kind of working towards that. So basically, like, the warlords, but only the Blackbeard pirates. Could be so cool. I think it'd be so awesome.
So I agree with pretty much most of that. By the way, okay, never mind. It got better. I was going to tell everybody, I'm sorry I got really blurry on screen. I was trying to fix it by going back and forth, and it wouldn't. And then as soon as I brought it up, it fixed itself. So there you go. But yeah, so I think first things first, we all know Blackbeard wants to get his island recognized as a legitimate country, like a government-affiliated nation, like Pirate Island. And, that's like a crazy idea that probably most, reasonable, rational government officials are not going to do. Like, hey, that is, not only is that an emperor, that's freaking Pirate Island. Like, are you, like, what do you, how is this even going to work? But the Celestial Dragons are not rational. And they are extremely hungry right now, even though they do have some food. They're just like, they're used to having everything the way they want it. And so they, instead of getting 3 square meals of, lobster and stuff, they're getting, cheese sandwiches or whatever. So I think that this is Oda, it's super obvious to me at this point. Like, Blackbeard is going to help them get food. The Celestial Dragons are going to, agree to a deal over it. And that's how he's going to not only get his country recognized, but also get into Marijois and stuff, right? Like, he's going to be invited, probably. They're going to like him. And then I could even see a situation where the Celestial Dragons, do this without even asking for, like, approval or bringing it up to anybody. And so, like, Akainu and the Gorosei are probably just talking, like, and Emu also, like, hey, what's our next step? What's our next plan? Whatever. And then Blackbeard just comes in, like, out of nowhere. And they're like, what? How did this happen? And he's like, well, you weren't paying enough attention to your nobles. You know what I mean? Like they were having a lot of trouble, and you guys weren't fixing it, and I did, and so they invited me up here. And then who knows what happens after that. But I think that is like kind of telegraphed at this point. But what I really like about Blackbeard being able to leverage food to get to this position is that is how we were introduced to Luffy and Blackbeard, was them eating, right? That's the one thing they shared. Now they had opposite views, one didn't like cherry pie, one didn't like the apple juice, whatever, right? But that is what we that's what we should think of with Blackbeard, right? Whenever we go back to the very beginning, we got to remember, like, him and Luffy are pretty similar. They're the same but opposite at the same time. And so for because we all know Luffy wants people to eat, right? He literally told Kaido, I want to make a world where my friends can eat as much as they want. And so Blackbeard's going to do the same thing, but his friends are the celestial dragons. Right.
It'd be so good.
It's too good.
That's so good. Perfect parallel.
Yeah.
Perfect parallel.
Oda's cooking, like, literally, because like it's all food. But like, seriously, and the other thing, which I brought up in my stream, and I'm curious what you think about this, because I know it's kind of controversial. But for me, right whenever I saw that Dragon destroyed the food stores, the first thing I thought of was Sanji would not like that. Because even though it's the Celestial Dragons, he would not want food destroyed. You know what I mean? It's like that. We are out in the ocean. It's hard to find this. Destroying food is bad, period. I don't care whose food it is. Like, it's bad. And the reason that this is all so great to me, and my next video might be a Dragon video, because this whole idea has like motivated me so much, where Dragon is shooting himself in the foot by destroying the food stores. The idea is smart. Like, I'm gonna create, some unrest. I'm going to get the nobles upset at their leaders. I'm going to, get everyone discombobulated. I'm going to make them focus their supply chains on stupid stuff like getting them lobster instead of weapons and all this stuff, right? Like, it makes sense. But, like the lesson we heard with Sanji, you don't destroy food out in the ocean. It's bad, period. And so, if that comes back to bite Dragon in the end, where destroying the food stores hurt him, and let Blackbeard take over, and so now the revolutionaries have an even harder time doing this, because, like, now they're, like, instead of reducing the forces that the government had, now it's even scarier, because they have a whole Emperor crew aligned with them. Like, to me, that would be so beautiful, because it shows why the Strawhats are doing it the right way. Like, they're going to take down the government without destroying the food, because that's wrong. And so the thing that was kind of controversial for me is I was like, not only would Sanji dislike that Dragon destroyed the food, I think that if Sanji was up there and he saw the Celestial Dragon starving, I'm talking about starving, not, demanding lobster when they have a different meal. Like, that's a different ballgame. But if they're actually starving, like, out of food, Sanji would feel bad and feed them. I think.
Agree.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Because Sanji is one of the kindest people. And even to somebody who would kill him, he would still show kindness. And I think that's one of the best aspects of Sanji's character. Mm-hmm. So, although that may be controversial, you're spitting. That's Sanji. Sanji is the kindest person on the Straw Hats. And he would never let somebody starve, even if they are an absolutely terrible person. That's one of the things, like, Yin was this horrible person, and they're like, he's part of Down Creed's crew, don't feed him, don't do this, but Sanji's like, I could never let a person like that. But also, it was Sanji's kindness that eventually can turn hearts, which is why Sanji is such an important piece of the Straw Hat crew, because Zoro is this, he's tough, he's firm, where it's like Sanji understands that sometimes you have to show people some kindness. And it's one of the reasons why Sanji and Nami kind of mesh so well together. Not like as a couple, but like just personality-wise. Because Nami shows that kindness to children. Where it's like, she's like, you need to show people kindness. And it's like, she always has a soft spot for women and children. Where Sanji has a soft spot for criminals and those who may not be the best people. But he knows that you can change their mind. I also think that the revolutionary thing that you're saying, I think that is a great theory. Because when you think about it, what are they going to start doing? Taking food away from towns and cities that they do, and start blaming it on the revolutionaries. So I think it's a spot on idea.
Exactly. Like, Dragon is creating a problem that wasn't there, that is going to hurt him, right? And the whole point isn't that Dragon's like dumb. Like, it probably will help him maybe in some way, shape, or form, but I think overall it's going to lead to him losing, and it's just going to be a lesson of, like, Dragon, you were real close, but, like, the Straw Hats have their head on straight. Like, you're just like a little step away, And going back to the Sanji thing, one thing that always hits me, almost makes me emotional even talking about it now, is in Whole Cake, whenever Luffy comes up and Sanji's running through the rain to bring him like the bento box or whatever, and it gets all rained on, and Luffy eats it. He's like, oh, it's delicious. And he's like, no, it's not. He's like, yes, it is. Like, you made it, whatever. But then Sanji tells him, like, I can't rejoin the crew for 3 reasons. And it's like, because I forget what, I hit you, I disrespected you. I can't remember what it was. But the last one was, and the last thing is, I still want to go save my family, even though they're terrible people and they hurt me and all this stuff. And so that's one example right there where Sanji does not care how bad you are. Sanji wants to help people. He's too kind. That is why, that's his whole thing, right? That is the Sanji character. And Luffy responded with like, well, that's okay. That's just how you are. And they just went, right? And like that is like if Sanji saw starving celestial dragons, he would feed them, and Luffy would be like, that's good. Like, go ahead, do whatever you got to do. Use our food if you have to, whatever. Like, now Luffy would obviously want to go eat too. Like, Luffy's Luffy, but he would be okay with Sanji feeding them. Is the point? I
agree 100%. I think that anybody who says Sanji wouldn't feed them misrepresents Sanji's character. I know that Sanji has he's obviously like a little bit of a gag character. Like, the pervy stuff is annoying, and it's one of the reasons why I don't enjoy his character all of the time. But when Sanji's on point, he's on point, and his best characteristic is his kindness. So people who disagree with you, I would suggest that they reread Whole Cake Island.
Yep.
Because you're spitting. Because you're right.
And go reread all the times when Sanji was fighting a woman and could have helped the crew, could have protected somebody, whatever, if he would have hit a woman. But he has these ideals that he sticks with, and that's the whole point of the character. Like, whenever people are like, oh, in this situation, Sanji would definitely hit a woman. I'm like, no, just stop. It's not. The only time he's going to hit a woman is like a situation wherever he kicked Big Mom, where he knows that he can't hurt her. You know what I mean? Like, that, like, he only kicked her because even whenever Black Maria was like punching him, he's like, I can't even turn on my my armament hockey because I know it would hurt you, because like you would hurt your hand hitting me. You know what I mean? Like, he only will do it if he knows it's not going to hurt anybody, right? So it's a totally different ball game. But he's never going to actually hurt a woman. It's just not going to happen. And it's the same thing with feeding people. He's never going to turn down a starving person to feed them, no matter. I don't care if it's Judge. I don't care if it's Charlos. I don't care who it is. Emu. If Emu's hungry, he's feeding him.
I honestly, not only are you spitting, but I think that may actually happen in the story, where we may actually see like starving celestial dragons, and they'll probably see Sanji's kindness and be touched by it. I know that a lot of people are like, the celestial dragons are kind of these unchangeable people, and I would say that for the most part you're correct. But I do think, and we see it with Mosgard, right, where it's like, sometimes if you show people what kindness is, they want, and that's the thing, like Mosgard, we're all like, oh my god, he's so great, but it's like, he was just as bad as everybody else. Like, he was just as bad as all these people. That is why
he's great, yes.
But the environment in which you are raised can sometimes determine who you are as a person. And if you're not exposed to certain things, then you'll never really think outside of that. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of the celestial dragons, they look hideous, they look ugly, they're kind of, they're hard to look at because they're so they've never been they don't know how else to be, basically.
Yep.
And so I think like most of the celestial dragons will need to have a lifetime of penance in order to change what they've done, in order to even have a modicum of respect, which is what Mosgard did. And I think that if a lot of the celestial dragons are like, I have a lot of penance to do, kind of like Endeavor's arc in My Hero, I think that Sanji would probably be able to change some of their minds, and in doing so, help tear down the system that they were a part of for so long, which would be very important in One Piece, because obviously we know nobody dies, so it's not going to be like Attack on Titan, the rumbling over here. It's going to be
or JJK.
Yeah. well.
Yeah. Well, we don't have.
Not necessarily JJK after that last chapter.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. A lot of.
More like my Everybody Comes Back Kaizen. No.
Yeah.
Oh wait, hold up. Did you see the spoilers for the latest one?
A little bit, because I don't really care about spoilers for that. So once I read the One Piece chapter, I start scrolling through Twitter because I want to see what everyone's saying, and I usually see JJK spoilers amongst it, and I don't care to read those. So I know a little bit.
Nobody dies. Nobody dies.
Yeah.
It's literally One Piece. So.
Well,
just so you know. But yeah, like Attack on Titan, my goat,
Yeah.
Eren Yeager.
Yeah. I have been begging Oda to start killing people. Like, it sounds terrible, but like I've literally been in the Discord like Kuma, I need you to die. At this point, I want Vegapunk to live, but I need someone to die. If it has to be Vegapunk, that's fine. But no, nobody dies. Who died during Egghead? Nobody. Technically, right? Like, because
Mosgard, maybe. We don't know yet. We don't know. He may come back.
Well, and I actually I brought this up a long time ago, and we still don't know. But remember how Kuma went to the top of the red line and like did a Ursa shock or whatever while he was up there? What if that messed up the execution scene and Mjosgard got freed and he ran away? You know what I mean?
Leave me alone. Don't tell me those things.
Like,
don't tell me these things.
There's no way Mjosgard's execucation got relegated to a little corner panel and we never even got a confirmation. You know, like in my mind, because like you were saying, I just gotta spit on Mjosgard sounds really bad, but I gotta cook because
fuck him off, bro. No, sorry.
You know, because Mjosgard, seriously, one of Oda's most well-written characters, and I know that sounds really crazy, but not just because he's a celestial dragon that came down and kind of got to see that the fishmen are good people and whatever, right? Like Otohime stood up for him, even took a bullet for him, whatever, right? It's also, it's not even that changed him, it's that how it changed him, because whenever the reverie happened, he saved Shirahoshi. Right? So he crashes at Fishman Island. Otohime saves him. Then Otohime's daughter gets saved by him on the red line where nobody else can come protect Shirahoshi, right? She is as far away from the ocean as possible. She can't call the Sea Kings. Luffy is nowhere nearby. The Reverie kind of has like a lot of bad people for the most part. You know, like most of those kings are probably pieces of shit. You know what I mean? And so... Like, I mean, like, Cobra would obviously be good, but, like, as we saw, Cobra's not stopping anybody. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, well, I don't know. I guess Cobra did, you know, he got the Defensive Player of the Year award for standing in the way of Emu, right? Defensive Player of the Award. Yeah. What else? What did I say the other stream? He set the screen. He set the pick. He took the charge for Sabo. But yeah, so like nobody else was going to be able to protect Shirahoshi. Like even whatever her brothers' names are, I can never remember those three, but like they were gonna hop in and protect her anyway, but like that would have led to a lot of trouble for the fishmen, and like probably they would have just all died, to be honest. And so I just Oda, like, that is so powerful to me, the whole Mjosgard situation. So I definitely agree, tying that back to the Sanji thing that you were saying earlier. I definitely agree that we're gonna have a moment, and I hope it's Sanji, because he would be the person to do this. But I hope that somebody does something kind for the Celestial Dragons in a given moment, and they think a little bit more. You know, like they probably say something, you know, backhanded to them in that moment, but then maybe like even Sanji's like, well, that's okay, and then he just like keeps walking, and then they're just like, huh, like he didn't even respond. Like he didn't. Usually they're mad or they cower or they, you know, because like they're slaves, like they're lesser than whatever, and Sanji might just be like happy and be like, that's fine. And then they'll be like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. You know, like their brain breaks from like someone kind being in front of them. Because also Kuma's a good example of that too. Now Kuma, he seems like he's probably cooked, but he's also like a really good guy that has been around the Celestial Dragons a lot. And, you know, like I want them to see some of this kindness, and for just one of them to be like, so these people we boss around are good. You know what I mean? Like I just want them to think about that through line a little bit. And then hopefully that'll lead to them standing up in a certain moment against the government, right? And we know that in God Valley, Garp and Roger fought to protect the Celestial Dragons. Why is that? You know, is it just that they didn't want to mess up the balance of the world? Like they didn't want, you know, every country to go have havoc wreaked on them? Or is it because they were able to recognize the Celestial Dragons don't deserve to die just because they're the nobles? Like there will always be another set of nobles to replace them, right? And so I think in their head they're like, we need to change them, like change their personality and like their mindset, not the human being in that position, because like they're always going to be bad because of nature versus nurture kind of deal, right? Like if they're whoever gets into that position is going to be a bad person. So yeah. I think that somebody has to change them from within, and I feel like Sanji and Luffy are probably like the top two people to do that.
more so like if you just take them down, then people are gonna take their place. But if everybody like is kind and agrees to make the world a better place, then the world will be a better place. Kind of, where it's like the people on the top need to dissolve it themselves. Where it's like if you just take them down and then have some, because somebody's gonna take their place. And that's basically like the Attack on Titan versus One Piece, right? Or like an Attack on Titan, that's exactly what happened. Like somebody more evil took their place, and then things ended up getting worse.
Yep.
Like things never change if you just kill off people. You have to change the mindset of everybody first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, in a lot of these towns that Luffy goes to, he ends up changing their minds and showing them a better way, where it's like, there has to be this person to show people kindness. So I definitely understand where you're getting at.
Yeah, because, like, and to be clear to everyone, I'm not saying that the Celestial Dragons will be, like, redeemed, you know what I mean? Like, that's like a whole other can of worms, but, like, I do think they're going to accept that they did a lot of bad things and do something good at one point. Now, does that redeem them? No. Because if you do a lifetime of terrible, terrible things like have slaves and the stuff with Gimme and all that, like screw you, you know what I mean? Like you're terrible. But it's just Oda's gonna cook with them. That's what I'm like so confident. Like Luffy in my mind is going to protect them at one point. Like I said, Sanji's gonna feed them, and they're just gonna be like confused. You know what I mean? They're gonna be like, okay. So, like, because they're also in the dark about the Void Century, right? They weren't told about that. Like, they're like, well, the Void Century, like, what is that? So, I think that they're going to slowly start picking up the pieces, like, okay, so we're under the thumb of this, like, overarching 1,000-year ruling class kind of thing, and we weren't even told everything. Like, what are they using us for? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to start thinking, like, why do they even have us here? And I do think Emu has a plan for them. Like, I think there's a reason why they're like purebred, I guess you could say. You know, why they like don't breathe the same air as people. I think there's an actual like maybe like lineage factor driven reason why that's going on. And I think they're gonna realize they're like pawns in the game, you know, and they don't want to do that, and they're gonna go to the good side eventually.
Yeah, and there's definitely gonna be celestial dragons that are like, I don't care, you know what I mean? And they're just like they're very evil people. But there will also be people who will change their mind and hopefully eventually change the system. And just like Dax said, they're not redeemed. They're not, oh my god, they're good people and they get to be. No. It's like, no, they have a lifetime of redemption to do. They need to dedicate basically their entire lives to helping people, to even have a modicum of respect. But I think that it could happen.
And what I think their fate is, like, in the long term, like because I agree with, like, the lifetime of repentance for all this terrible stuff. What I hope happens is they become Kuma, essentially, and they become priests. They start preaching the good word of Sun God Nika, because also priests tend to live, you know, very frugally, I guess I'll say, right? They don't make a lot of money. Like, they don't live very lavishly, if you're like a pastor or whatever. And so the Celestial Dragons, going from these world nobles that acted like gods and treated the world like trash this whole time, then to come down and be like the kind of the bottom, like not the bottom, but like, you know, kind of live in poverty a little bit, like barely get by just preaching the good word of Nika, going on mission trips, helping people, building houses for people. Like they go down to like living a life of service, basically. That
which would be very that'd be so good.
Yeah, I hate the Celestial Dragons because they're terrible, but I also love them because Oda, it's such a smart plan to make them exist in the way they do, you know, just being so unlikable, but yet matter a lot, you know, so yeah. The next thing I want to talk about, still sticking on the Blackbeard a little bit here, is Lafitte, because I'm just trying to kind of understand what's going on here, because if you look at like the Lafitte stuff, he says basically the gondolas are sabotaged and they keep crashing. What did the revolutionaries just put bombs in all the gondolas so they blow up whenever they get started, or like why do they keep blowing up? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand exactly. Like, is it simply that they actually sabotage the actual gondolas and the government are just dumb enough to not go check the others for bombs that are, you know, hooked up? Or is it maybe like these food storage shipments have bombs in them because Umit, or this shipping guy, is maybe like in cahoots with the revolutionaries and maybe putting bombs in the food so this happens every time? Or did Morley do something to the red line whenever he was inside of it with his fruit to make this happen? Like maybe he has like, you know, like a something popping out that messes up the track or whatever, so the gondola gets, you know, messed up. Like, what do you have any idea?
That's actually really interesting, and I didn't really think about it too much, but aren't all of the revolutionaries, like, that we know of, they're all off, right? They're all back in Kambabaka Queendom.
Yep.
So, you're right, it doesn't really make any sense. You could say that there are, like, some other revolutionaries, like, stopping other food from trying to get up there, but it's like, actually sabotaging these gondolas, and it's not like, especially if they keep fixing them and they putting them back up, it seems like from your picture it's an explosion, right? For like, if we look at the actual manga panel, it's a huge explosion that seems like it's happening every time they go back up.
And
the one thing, oh, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. You said in the one thing, so I'm curious now.
Oh yeah, so the one thing that I can think of is that there is somebody from the revolutionaries technically still on Mary Joie, and it's Lafitte, because Lafitte has gone undercover.
Yeah.
And he's the one who's been planting it, because we know if there's one person who can get into something, it's Lafitte.
Yep.
So I would say that Lafitte is a double agent, and would be very interesting to see if, like, this would even lead more into Blackbeard's plan, where it's like the revolutionaries think like, oh, we're doing everything like how we want to, but it's like, nah, like you're not. Like, it's all Blackbeard's master plan.
Yeah, and I like the idea that it's Lafitte. And honestly, Lafitte doesn't even really have to be in cahoots with the revolutionaries for this. It could just be that he watched like what everything they were doing and is like, okay, so they like destroyed the food stores, snuck up this way, but like maybe he fully understands, and so maybe he's the one sabotaging the gondolas because he's like, hey, Teach, we might be able to take advantage of this situation. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna keep sabotaging these so that they don't fix the problem until Teach tells me what to do, right? Like, because if they bring the food up, then their chance to take advantage of the food shortage is gone, basically, right? Like, what if they get a lot of food, they're set again. So it might be Lafitte, like, you know, just doing it himself just because it would be a smart plan to keep that option open for now. And I do like that. The other thing could just be that the revolutionaries put bombs in all the gondolas, and the government are just, you know, idiots and just keep going up without checking the other gondolas. But that would be such an oversight that I really hope that's not it. Like, after the first one blows up, especially the second one, then you should just go check all of them, you know, like, or order a new one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I hope it's Lafitte, because that would just make the government seem a little bit less dumb. And like you said, if there's one guy who can hang around here and keep sneaking into that thing and sabotaging it with nobody noticing, it's Lafitte. So
there is another option though, but it would require Crocodile to kind of be a bit of a turncoat and be working with the Blackbeard pirates. And remember we were talking about Broatworks. There is one person who is a bomb man who can make things explode with his boogers.
Yeah, Mr. Five.
And you know what I mean? Why would you, as the world government, even look at a booger? You know what I mean? Or like, oh, there's like some snot on here. That's okay. They wouldn't think anything of it.
True. I mean, he could even be just flicking the boogers from a distance and just blowing it up, right?
Exactly.
That's
and
interesting.
It's like, it could be that Crocodile is in turn working with Blackbeard, and maybe that's one of the reasons why he was so upset that Buggy wanted to go after the One Piece, because to him, that's somebody he's working with and actively trying to do it, because Blackbeard's plan and Crocodile's plan kind of work side by side.
Well, they're both like kind of merging on the Pluton thing right now,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
Caribou, that's another thing that we saw in this chapter is, you know, Caribou has finally made it over to Hachinosu, I suppose. And so we can presume that Blackbeard is about to hear about Pluton, right? And so there could be a little bit of merging of ideals there. The thing with Lafitte, though, I like, it almost seems like he's observing all this without being involved. So like, if it was, you know, Mr. Five or, you know, Crocodile thing, it could just be him doing this and Lafitte's noticing that Croc is doing it, right? Like, it could, like, they don't even have to necessarily be working together, but I do like the idea that it's Mr. Five, just because it makes my Miss Golden Week idea seem more realistic.
And when you think about it, though, there is a connection between the revolutionaries and Crocodile with Ivankov. So it could be that Ivankov's like, hey, come help us. I always like the
interesting.
idea that Crocodile is like technically like a secret revolutionary, and like it's a very weird theory, but I think Crocodile was originally a revolutionary, and he saw how the revolutionaries were going about things, and kind of thought that he didn't believe in Dragon basically as much as everybody else did. And it's one of the reasons why Ivankov and Crocodile have like this thing that's kind of going on between them, where they know each other. Like Ivankov knows who he is, but it's like Crocodile wanted to go off on his own and try to basically do what the revolutionaries couldn't by making like this huge conglomerate. It would be kind of interesting, though.
Well, that would be interesting because that would be almost like a twisted version of Dragon starting with the Marines and realizing he didn't like them. Because we don't know the full scope of that yet, but we just know he was a Marine at one point. And so it could be a similar version of that, like how Dragon joined the Marines and had a kind of like a contemporary of sorts in Akainu. They're the same age, right? So they probably joined around the same time. Or then now their paths diverged, and Dragon went the opposite way, went to the Revolutionaries, and Akainu now is like leading the Marines. It could be a similar thing where, you know, maybe Croc a few years later was like one of the first enlistees for the Revolutionaries, and maybe, you know, like the plans weren't good enough. Maybe there wasn't enough money, because we know Croc loves his money, right? He's got stacks, and Revolutionaries don't. So it could be a thing where Croc's like, I can go make my own organization that's better, and that's how Baroque work started. Because it's kind of similar. It's a bounty hunting organization, so it's not like quite the same. But I mean, it's, you know, you're closer than a lot of people are, you know. To
it
one
is,
another.
and remember, he wanted to create a utopia. That was his thing. He wanted to create a perfect society, and he's like, the people who help me out will be on the top of it. But it's like he wanted to create a society without the world government, basically.
Yep.
So it's like it kind of is along the same thing. I
kind of like it because Croc is also like a little bit younger than Dragon. I think he's like 14 years younger. I think Croc is no. Croc is 46, so he's 9 years younger, right? I think.
I don't know any of their ages. They're all old, bro.
Yep, Croc is
They're
40,
old people.
Croc is 46. I haven't looked it up yet, but I'm pretty sure Dragon is 55. It's really bad if I know this. Yep, he's 55. So there you go.
Oh, well.
And so yeah, so he would have been 9 years older. So it could be a thing where like maybe Dragon, you know, maybe like in his early 20s, found Croc as like a early teen or whatever, and you know maybe tried to take him in, and then Croc, you know, over the next couple of years realized, you know, I can do this better or something, right?
I could make a better utopia than what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And that's why he ended up leaving, and that's one
That's
of the reasons why him and Ivankov have the relationship. So it could be that maybe Crocodile is like, we gotta take down a common enemy before we go after each other, and it's like having a sort of pseudo relationship with the revolutionaries, and it could be Mr. Five. But it is interesting that the Bondalas keep going down.
Yeah, that to me that was the thing in the chapter where I'm like, okay, I need a little more explanation, Oda. Like like what do you mean they're sabotage? Like, am I just supposed to just is it just end there? Like, how this? I don't know. How many Bondalas are there? Like, how many explosions have we had where we haven't fixed it or double checked or whatever?
Unless the food is exploding, and that's the thing where it's like the revolutionaries have basically poisoned the food supply.
That's what I think, because of Umit, however you say his name, the Underworld guy who runs the shipping company. I could see him being in cahoots with Dragon, and Dragon's like, hey man, just, you know, put these bombs in there. Like, we're done with these guys. We're taking over. Because now it's funny though, because Dragon has been attacking supply chains this entire time. That's actually one of my favorite things about what Oda's doing with the revolutionaries, is he's really making them tackle this kind of like how like real wars work, right? Because like real wars aren't always just, let me just march in and kill all of you. Like that is probably the last resort for a lot of wars, right? That the number one way well, I shouldn't say number one, there's a lot of ways you can do it. If I were to put on my evil mastermind hat for a minute, you know, you, for one thing, starve them, put dams up so the rivers don't bring water to them, so they run out of water, turn off all their power, right? It like take away the things that make them live, so they are forced to surrender. That's what the good conquerors do. The good at conquering conquerors do. The bad people, though. And so that's what Dragon's been doing, right? The liquor, iron ore, and Dressrosa. That was why the revolutionaries were there. we see here with like the food shortages. There's a couple other examples I can't think off the top of my head, but that even when Sabo and Dragon were talking about like Emu and stuff, he I think outright said like, well, we've been attacking their supply systems for months now or something. So he's tackling it the way that, you know, he should. But the thing is like all this kind of underworld trade going on is obviously ran by the underworld, specifically Umit, who does all the shipping. So that's like one of the most important parts. Like at the end of the day, this is the guy who's getting them the product that they need at the end of the day, right? So I think I could see a world where Dragon has caused enough trouble for Umit at this point, like ruining shipments, destroying stuff, whatever, where maybe now he is working with him, or if not that, somebody from the Revolutionary is sneaking into Umit's shipping stuff and sabotaging the food stores so that they blow up, you know, like with timed bombs or whatever. So, yeah, there's a lot of options, I think,
I agree.
For that. And speaking about Umit just a little bit more, because he's, you know, one of the Underworld guys, and we met them in Whole Cake. We've been waiting to see him. I need to see my guy Drug Peklo. That's my favorite Underworld guy, and I haven't seen him since Whole Cake. I think that's the only time. Well, no, we saw him in Sabaody, I think, too, a little bit. He's also known as the Major Undertaker. That's my favorite Underworld guy. I've been waiting for him. I don't know when he's coming back, but
I hope that the Underworld people make an appearance at some point. I hope that they do it on Lodestar. I think after Elbaf, that's the next arc that we're going to go to, is the Lodestar arc. And I think that that's where we're going to really see, like, the Revolutionaries, and then we're going to see, like, a little bit more of the Underworld. And I think that's kind of going to be the focus. I agree. I think that the Underworld is, like, super underutilized right now in the manga.
Yeah. Oh, like, that, to me, that is, I think they are gonna have a major role later. Like whenever you go to Sabaody and you see like the auction thing starting, and you get all these like Underworld people looking at the TVs to see the auction going on, it just gives this feel of like, okay, so these are the people that really run the One Piece world right here, right? Like this is like the cartel. This is like, you know, like this is some serious stuff. And so, you know, speaking on the cartel, like I need Drug Peklo to get active. Also, I was just looking at his wiki and I didn't even know this, but at Big Mom's tea party, everyone had their weapons confiscated except for Drug Peklo, who got to keep his scythe. Which is, I don't know what that means, if anything.
Listen,
but
Oda's cooking with these guys. They're definitely coming back in the story at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be in Elbaf because I think we got too much stuff to kind of go over, but Lodestar.
Yeah, I'm down with Lodestar.
Next arc.
And there was something else I was gonna mention. Oh yeah. So speaking of like the next arc, obviously, you know, all of us, it seems like Elbaf is right here on the horizon and all that. But I gotta say, because I still have some Sphinx Island stocks, if you go back to when the crews got separated, the crew that's on the giant ship said, "We've got to find them. We can't head to Elbaf like this." So, is there a chance that the crews just get split up and not just split up like how they are now, but like the giant ship has been sailing for 2 days and they know something weird's going on. They're separated from the Sunny. If they don't hear from the other half of the crew, I don't think it makes sense to go to Elbaf, because it's like, okay, if they're at Elbaf, they're fine. If they're not at Elbaf, they're in trouble. We should stay out here and find them until we know where they are. Because if we just go to Elbaf hoping for the best and they're not there, they might die. You know what I mean? Like, we got to stay out here and help them. And so I'm wondering if they're, you know, they're going to maybe go to Sphinx, because it's nearby. It's pretty close to Elbaf, or at least it's in between Wano and Elbaf, so it should be somewhat nearby. And so I'm wondering if they just go stop there, because they're like, we just need to make the closest stop and think about this. Like, we don't want to go too far. Yeah. And then,
I think that would make a lot of sense.
And Vivi could pull up, because if you think about Vivi, Morgans, and Wapol right now, they're probably like, well, we gotta go land somewhere safe. What's like one of the most peaceful islands in the world? Sphinx Island.
Sphinx.
Yeah.
Oh, and then this way they could have some sort of communication, because Lilith is with the, I guess he may dub them the post-time skip crew, even though Robin's on there with them. But it's like kind of like the post East Blue crew, where it's like the East Blue crew is all together on a ship. So, I mean, trying to like figure out a way to contact them. Like maybe it would be probably easiest to contact like with Usopp and Nami there. Like they could create some sort of communication device. And they're like, oh hey, like where are you guys at? And they're trying to like find them. But I would think that if they do end up on 2 separate islands, would be very interesting because I think this would be the first arc in One Piece in which it's not focused on a single island then. So that would be pretty interesting.
And that's what I think would be really cool is like Oda could give us like an Elbaf cliffhanger, go back over to Sphinx, build it up a little bit, give us a cool cliffhanger, go back over to Elbaf, you know, develop that a little bit, leave on a cliffhanger. Like that's what Oda does, you know. He loves like because we did that in Egghead, right? It was just that we were seeing other people do stuff outside of Egghead. But instead, he might do the same thing where we're mostly in Elbaf, but he's dipping over to Sphinx Island here or there just to show us what these people are doing. And now, to be clear, I do think at some point they would leave Sphinx and come to Elbaf. Like, we're going to have everyone in Elbaf at some point, but it could just be for the first maybe 20, 30 chapters of Elbaf. This half the crew is still figuring things out. Now, the one problem with all this is Luffy is not on the giant ship. Right? I believe he was on the Sunny. Like, we don't see him here, so maybe he's still sleeping somewhere for all we know. But he should be on the Sunny. And it would feel weird to go to Sphinx without Luffy because Ace's grave is there. Right? It's like, okay, so is Luffy never going to get to see that then? So part of me hopes that what's happened is maybe Luffy is actually on the giant ship. Like, maybe he's still passed out in the lower, you know, like in the sleeping chamber or something. Like, people maybe don't know that he switched ships or something. So then he does get to go to Sphinx. That would be my favorite thing. But regardless, you know, we also saw that the ship, the ship sails really fast. It's been 2 days. They were supposed to be at Elbaf already, and they're not. And they're confused on what's causing the delay. So part of it could be, you know, whirlpool weather stuff that they missed while they were sleeping. But I brought this up like a million times during Egghead, where there's a hole in the side of the ship from Bluegrass, because Bluegrass like controlled one of the giraffe sea beast things and shot a laser into the side of of their ship, and they were like, "Oh, there's a hole in the hull of our ship now." And usually the way that works is that whenever there's a hole like that in the side, like as waves crash into the side of the ship, little bits of water will get into the ship. Slowly the ship gets really heavy and starts sinking because the water is building up. Part of me is wondering if that's actually what happened, and maybe this ship just got really, really heavy over the last 2 days and they forgot about it, and so that's why the ship is moving super slow, and then maybe the Sunny went ahead, right? And so maybe they have to stop at Sphinx to like fix it. Now it doesn't seem that's the case, but I don't know. There's a lot of things that make me think they might just go stop at the nearest island, basically.
Yeah, and like kind of do like a quick pit stop. I would agree, and also like Frankie's on that ship too, so at least they have a shipwright, you know, to kind of work on it.
Ooh, good point.
So I think that's another pretty good option. Yeah, I think that the 2 island thing would be so interesting. It would make Elbaf arc in total one of the most, you know what I mean, like different from all the other arcs, because this will be the first time where we don't solely focus on the Strawhats on one island. There's Strawhats on 2 islands.
Yep. Which because we've done that before with Whole Cake, Zoe, Dressrosa, right? But it's always like one arc at a time, right? We just kind of leave half the crew in the dust. And this time we'd be doing kind of the opposite, where we're focusing on both. Or, you know, it could be, like I said, Elbaf cliffhanger, Sphinx for a few chapters, Sphinx cliffhanger, you know, go back and forth. But yeah, like I said, Luffy not being there really makes it weird. But you pointed out Lilith being on the giant ship, which, by the way, the giant ship is called, what is it, the Great Eric or something like that? The Great Leaf Erikson. Having Lilith on that ship really aids the Sphinx Island debate, because Bakken said that Vegapunk can prove Weevil is Whitebeard's kid. Lilith is the last remaining Vegapunk. Now, technically, obviously, Edison and everyone merged, whatever Punk Records is around, whatever BS, right? But Lilith is the main one who survived.
Yeah.
So getting her over there to talk to Marco and be like, Marco, like, it's legit. Like, here's how Weevil was made. It's actually Whitebeard's kid. He'd be like, okay, holy shit. All right, let's go to Impel Down. You know?
That would be pretty insane.
Yeah, I still got all my Sphinx stocks. Like every stream, people are asking me because I had the video about it. So I'm still hoping. What'd you say?
I said could be.
Yeah,
Could be.
I think it'd be good for the story. Last thing that I want to talk about, the last like bit of the chapter that we haven't really broken down yet, is the Shanks and Barto situation.
Yes.
So I don't know. Just give me your thoughts on the whole thing. Like, what were your expectations for it? Did you like how this went down, or what are your thoughts on it?
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really expect the chapter to start off with Barto and Shanks. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is like really interesting, right? We kind of get this little payoff from the cover story, which kind of shows how important the cover stories are.
Yes.
Hoping that the anime realizes that soon as well. But
Please.
The fact that we kind of see these two people together, and we see like one of Luffy's subordinates, and then Shanks being very strict and like kind of doing this thing where he's basically testing Barto's loyalty to Luffy.
Yeah.
I really like that part. Like looking back on it, because at first I was like, oh my gosh, like he has this poison he's gonna give to Luffy. I was like, he clearly knows that like he would probably stop Bart. Like if Bart would start going, he probably would have like stopped it. But the fact that Bart like took the poison and was like, I'll kill myself instead.
Mm-hmm.
Very clear that Shanks was testing the loyalty of Luffy's like outside crew, and I liked that part because then you kind of see Shanks and he's like very clearly like Shanks has this kinship with Luffy, and he's trying to just make sure that the people who follow Luffy aren't going to betray him. Until of course we get to the very last couple panels where we see the man, the myth, the deadbeat himself, Yasopp, shoot down the entire ship, and it seemed like it almost took Shanks by surprise. There's like this little what's going on? So it's like I almost wonder if Shanks kind of knew that was gonna happen, or if he was kind of just like Shanks is the one who's like, oh, he's the chill guy, right? Everybody else on the crew is the pirates.
Yep.
So it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I was like, oh,
yeah, it's like,
it was like very backhanded.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It's like, yeah, like you said, like Shanks is surprised. If you go look at the panel, he has like a little word bubble with an exclamation point, and you even see like 5 little lines that are like, usually that's like a surprise. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like I wasn't expecting that. So I really like this scene because even though it didn't pan out the exact way that I had predicted it, it does fit in line with kind of what I was saying kind of all along was, I don't think Shanks really cares about this flag situation because, like, don't get me wrong, he does want to protect the people under him, but I think when he hears, like, oh, so Luffy's friend burnt the flag and he's going to claim the territory under Luffy's name, okay, fine. As long as nobody got hurt, great, like, Luffy's gonna take care of them too, like that's all I care is that these people are okay, like that's the only thing I'm worried about, and so that's like not cool because in my mind I was like, I bet you Shanks is gonna show up, make sure everyone's okay, and tell Barto like kind of share the love of Luffy with Barto a little bit. That was like what I thought was gonna happen, like where he wouldn't even really get punished, and that is kind of what happened. Like yes, he got roughed up a little bit before the poison thing, like you can see like the little like welt on his head there. But that's pretty much what happened, right? Because all Shanks wanted to do was test him and make sure he is who he thought he was. Like, hey, if you're a Luffy follower, for one thing, let me check if you're actually like in a similar vein to Luffy. Like okay, you didn't hurt anybody, good. Like Luffy wouldn't hurt anybody either. And then also, like, are you gonna back Luffy wholeheartedly? Like, are you actually his friend, or are you just taking his flag because it gives you more notoriety, right? Like what's your reasoning? And so that's like what the poison was. And so yeah, like seeing Barto drink it right away, like that.
Yeah.
What it reminds me of is Thriller Bark with Kuma. Oh, you disappeared, by the way. But
hold up.
It's all good.
Let me pop back in. Give me 1 second.
All good. I know this happens on your streams with Hime sometimes.
Every time, every day. Sorry.
Yep, all good.
I'm back.
Oh, I don't see you yet.
Pop me back in.
How do I do that?
You go to settings and then show on stream. That little gear and then show on stream.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay, good. Thank you.
There we go. I'm back.
All right, bet.
Sorry.
There we go. That was quick. But this reminds me a little bit of Thriller Bark when Kuma, tested Zoro, basically, right? It's a similar thing, right? Like yes, there's supposed to be like a layer of like, Kuma had a duty to like kill Luffy and stuff, like whatever. Like there's a little bit more to it there, but the same kind of thing where, like Kuma left that situation and said like, Dragon, like your son's got some strong friends or whatever, right? And so it's the same thing here. And the thing that I love about this, that I don't know if I love it more than nothing happened, but it's, you know, I like it for similar reasons, is that, you know, Barto immediately is like, Luffy never even asked me to share that sake or take up his flag. I'm not going to get him involved in this. He didn't ask for it. Like, I'm doing this on my own volition because I believe in Luffy so much. Like, I have no agreements with him. He has not accepted me as like Nakama or anything. I just believe in him so much that I'm going to do this anyway. Right? That, to me, that is so overwhelmingly powerful. And for Shanks, that has to be, because obviously for someone like Zoro, Luffy's first mate, you're gonna get a level of dedication from that guy. Like I think Shanks knows that, but we've already seen that with Kuma, and so now we're getting another version where Shanks is able to see, oh, so Luffy's influence has spread even beyond the people that are technically closest to him, right? Like his influence has spread to where pirates around the world are following him just because he's him, right? Just because he's Luffy. And just because he, you know, has the temperament that he has, he saved the people that he has, all that kind of stuff. These people believe in him no agreements, no promises of grandeur after saving the world, nothing. It's just that Luffy, like, for Shanks, that has to be overwhelming, you know?
He must be so proud, bro. He must be like, oh my gosh,
like,
I can't believe it.
Like, Shanks is probably thinking, like, you know, people around the world think of me like this. You know what I mean? Like, you know, people fear red-haired Shanks, but as we saw with like his fleet of super weak pirates, they believe in him because he's a good dude, right? Like yes, that's like his actual fleet or what, like, you know, they've probably talked about their agreement of working together or whatever, but it's like Shanks probably has had the same feeling. Like, I've helped a lot of people too and done good things, and now people know, you know, I have that reputation that I protect or whatever. And it's like, so for Luffy, for you to now finally have a big enough reputation where pirates are just listening to you just because they like you, like that, I don't know, that is to me, I don't know, Oda's cooking on like an insane level with that.
I will say, because you brought up like the Thriller Bark thing, it does feel like Yasopp is giving off like Zoro vibes, where Zoro's like, we can't just like let them escape, you know what I mean? Like, we have to like show them, like, we're a pirate crew. I think we see the similarities of, you know, Luffy and Shanks, and then there's also some similarities between like Yasopp and Zoro. I'm not saying that Yasopp is the second hand or the, you know, the second in command or anything. I'm just saying, like, there is a personality parallel here.
And I love that you brought that up, because I haven't even thought about this. But you know, Usopp and Zoro are kind of I don't know what the right way to put it is, but they've had a little bit of conflict in terms of the Water 7 situation, where you know, Zoro's like, hey, Luffy, you got to be more serious about this, basically. Like, he needs to apologize if he's rejoining. Like, this is very serious business, like someone leaving the crew. Like, that was Zoro stepping up to tell his captain, like, you got to be more serious. Here we have Yasopp kind of doing the same thing, right? Like, hey, we still got to teach them a lesson. Like, yeah, I know you're pumped about the... Like, yeah, we probably don't need to do this, but we still have to, you know?
Yeah. So it's like that is... There is that really cool, like, Water 7 parallel where it's like... Because, like, you see kind of, like, Ben... Like, it seems like Ben Beckman is... Because he also, like... Because I think, like, Ben and Shanks both love Luffy so much. Because of, like, him as a kid. Like, they were probably, like, the closest. And I think in, like, the film Red... like, short... Like, pre-episodes, which I don't know if they're, like, technically canon or not. I think that they are. It was in the anime leading up to the movie, which isn't canon, but... Uta is a canon character. You know what I mean? You know which one episodes I'm talking about?
Well, Uta was in a chapter technically, right? Like, technically. We can see like her arm or something.
Yeah, but they made like these pre film Red movie stuff where they had like Uta and Luffy like hanging out together, because like technically like that's canon.
Right.
They had like this scene with like Ben Beckman and Luffy, which is like a really cute scene, and it kind of showed like their relationship a little bit more, where it's like Shanks was this fun guy that Luffy looked up to, but Ben kind of protected Luffy.
Right.
Which makes sense why both of them would be so excited about this. And then Yasopp, who wasn't as close, was like, all right, hold up, stand aside.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, because these two characters like had this relationship with Luffy, so they're just proud. They're like, oh my gosh, look at how far Luffy went. And then Yasopp's like, come on guys, we're a pirate crew, get out of the way.
Yasopp's like, F them kids, you know, like I don't care about that touchy feely stuff. I'm just about to.
He's like, I don't care about your kid. I don't care about my kid, bro.
Exactly. Like, and I actually like building off of that angle. It is kind of funny that Yasopp is the one to be serious about it, because it's like, Yasopp, like you just don't have a soft heart at all, do you? You know what I mean?
No.
Like you just don't care about anyone.
Not even his wife.
Nope.
He's actually the worst. He's actually the worst.
He is, and that's why. He's taking his anger out. The anger he has for himself out on on Barto in this case.
Ooh.
You know.
That might actually be a really interesting thing, where it's like Yasopp, like very similar to Usopp. How Usopp kind of like hates himself, like he's very negative.
Yeah.
Yasopp feels that same way
because of what he did to Usopp.
Because because of what he did to Usopp, because of what he did to his wife, where it's like he has all of these regrets, and because of that he's like super serious. Would be a really funny parallel. Not funny, I should say. Fun parallel. To like him and Usopp, where it's like Usopp hates himself because he wants to be more like his dad, where Yasopp hates himself because he is himself. And he missed out on so many important things.
I actually love that, because also you think about Usopp, like we know his personality is negative, right? Like he's overwhelmingly negative, so much that Perona's hollows don't even work. So to have Yasopp be negative, but maybe negative in a different way, we're like this. He's gonna teach people a lesson even when it's not really necessary, type thing, right? That I actually kind of like that. Like they both have emotional baggage in that way.
Exactly.
That's actually, I really like that idea. Well, I think we covered pretty much the whole chapter here. And
more.
And plenty more. So if you guys like this discussion, definitely like the video. But also, Chestnut, before we wrap up, do you have anything you want to, plug to the audience here?
Well, first off, thank you so much to the third Chibi girl, Dak. As you can tell, he's obviously the prettiest out of the Chibi girls.
That's true.
Very clearly. He's also the most girly out of us too. So.
Yep, that's also true.
But thank you so much for having me on. This was so fun. I really haven't had like an in-depth discussion about One Piece in a while. I think it kind of showed, where I was like, ooh, like bouncing the theories. I love doing this stuff. Obviously, me and Hime always do a chapter react at 6:30 every Thursday when it pops out. So if you guys ever want to see like my initial reactions to the chapters and how much I make fun of my co-host, definitely pop on by to my channel and come join us. I don't really have much because, as Dak knows, I have the concepts of videos in my head.
Oh God, yep.
That was so funny when you texted me that.
Concepts of a plan of a video.
I have the concepts of a plan of a video.
If you know,
so maybe eventually.
If you know, you know.
But make sure that you guys are subscribing to Dak Sake, because this man is going to be one of the most influential One Piece theorists ever. So if you guys aren't already subscribed to not only his redacted channel where this is going to be on, but to his main channel, what are you doing? It takes nothing to subscribe. It's free. So make sure that you guys are getting him up there. Dak is going to take me out to dinner when he hits 100K, so...
Yeah, I mean, well, you still owe me a dinner for 100K.
I know, I do.
Think, so.
I owe you a dinner, and then you're gonna owe me a dinner. So
I know. We're just gonna be eating constantly.
Honestly, I've been saving like so many restaurants for New York, so I'm set. I'm ready.
I was about to say we're eating like celestial dragons, but we're not. We're eating better than celestial dragons at this point.
That is true. But yeah, thank you so much, Dak. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know that you've been under the weather a little bit consistently since the bleach incident. But
again, I appreciate you, Dak.
I was gonna say, you should start doing reactions for bleach, but I already know what those reactions look like. So, I do want to say, everyone, make sure you go check out Chestnut and Hime's channel, because they both stream together, so you're going to see Chestnut in two different places. So, and also, if you really want to go check, go check all their reactions to everything. But if you like watching anime episode reactions, you definitely need to go to their channels for their One Piece episode reactions, because from this point going forward, like, every episode is ridiculously hype. Like, for pretty much the rest of Egghead at this point, because we're we're right in the middle of the Reverie stuff, right? Like Emu voice reveal and all that. And their episode reactions are always popping. They get like ridiculous amounts of views on those. Like it's like a party in there. So and they also react like right when the episode comes out, like at 10:15, like 15 minutes after. So if you like, watching the new One Piece episodes with a lot of other One Piece fans, definitely go to their channels for that. And check out JJK reactions, all that stuff. But the anime episodes, I just want to shout that out because I mean, for one thing, that's one of your biggest things. But with how hyped the episodes are coming up, I'm sure it's only going to grow more. So
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so you guys should all go check that out. But all right, I think that's about it for today. So y'all have a good one, and see you next time.
All right, peace.